But yeah, I'm just surprised that the Swain didn't end up moving a little bit sooner. His now, Jana, no flash.
Heal, flash, auto attack, first blood. Froggy is the one to pick that one up. And Evelyn Bot is in the area. Descent does drop the Rift Guard. They're going to look to engage. It's going to be a Cataclysm getting dropped down, but Veigar got pulled into the Cataclysm, which could be trouble.
Ooh.
Down goes Evelyn Bot. Down goes the Veigar as well. Hugs Descent and the support on the one side, but they're going to be the ones to get engaged on. Ultimate coming out for the Malphite onto the Veigar, but the Veigar is still okay for right now. He's going to try to flash the rest of his team as Evelyn Bot is on the look. The Caitlyn was left all alone on the backside, and no free hugs is now left all alone with everybody else from Farmingdale.
That's game.
Both of them are level 4. No Zillion bombs are available right now, which means French Delta Force is going to be able to get in. There's the flash, but the flag and drag lands, and El Unicornio in a lot of trouble. French Delta Force not able to get the kill. That one's going to go over to Huracan. Veigar
he's
doesn't
dead.
quite know where he is. Has spotted him out. Here comes the Jarvan over the wall. Multiple members over the wall now as they're trying to get as much damage as possible. French Delta Force able to get the first kill. Now, bearing down on to the Xayah. They are going to get revived by the Zillion, but weak side. It just means they're a sitting duck to give more kills.
There's nothing. Yeah,
There
they
comes the
quite
ultimate.
literally.
Malphite getting in there on multiple members here. Weak side is now starting to join the fight here. Somebody's in stasis, somebody's resurrecting, but it doesn't just matter. They're just all meant to die to Veigar. It's a double kill for weak side, a double kill for French Delta Force. They get a kill back.
Leave the old man alone!
But they are going to be able to close out onto the Zillion. The cherry on top for Froggy and Farmingdale State College.
Holding on to this stock at 160.
Oh yeah, both of these characters decently heavyweight, gonna be seeing very large percentages. And the back ear from Matt Fat Mansion to take it right there.
I see it too. Oh, good forward air tipper there. Hope should be able to recover from this unless you get countered. Dags with a huge opener there.
But Splat says, listen, I need you to get right back off stage. It's nice that you want to get here. You gotta go.
And the block, I think, actually helps Splat there. Again, falling because the second hit of that.
I didn't get to show out last time the way I wanted to. But I'll do it.
He's all warmed up now, but he...
Hello and welcome to ECAC quarterfinals action here on this lovely weekday. My name is Danger Taco. Joined with me is Whoops You. We got a banger to start you guys off. If you're looking for some collegiate esports Rocket League action, specifically Wichita State and College of Staten Island. And Whoops You, I don't know how closely you've been following some of these teams. Wichita got an interesting fan base, and I'm curious to see if their fan base can actually be riled up by how they're going to pop off potentially today.
Yeah, I mean, Wichita State probably coming in here as the absolute favorite, in my personal opinion. Like you said beforehand, Danger Taco, these fans follow closely, and I tell you what, they come in hordes as well. So, I mean, Staten Island has their work cut out for them today, especially against a very, very solid roster as well. So, I mean, it's going to be a heck of a time and some even better Rocket League for us.
And we can certainly hope so, at the very least. As we mentioned earlier, this is the quarterfinals, so this is the start of the playoffs. We're right in the thick of it, which is always interesting, especially with the timing of collegiate esports seasons, because not only do you have to tense up and really focus in on the playoffs, on the pitch, on the digital pitch, or whatever have you, but you also have to actually ready up for usually your finals. So hopefully these players can do both. They are student digital athletes, after all, but at the end of the day, I think that these players are super pumped to be able to get into it, and I certainly know that both you and I are as as well. So as the players take the field, I'm curious to see how this one is going to work on out as they start these playoff brackets, because you mentioned Wichita State might be a favorite, but that doesn't really mean anything if you don't show up and prove it.
Exactly. This is Rocket League at the end of the day, and you have to be prepared, like you said beforehand, and maybe you're prepared for those tests, like you said as well, but you have to be coming out here preparing for this Rocket League matchup. Hopefully you did your homework, and hopefully on top of that, you got some practice in as well with your teammates. Good shot coming through right now from View. That was a close one. Almost starting off hot right here is WSU.
And being able to really focus on in and get these games off, and more importantly, get these solid shots on in, I think is a great way to build confidence. So it's nice to be able to see that from Wichita State as the top seed, as Cap will be trying to roll one across, but no exit demo found. And certainly the aggression is something that I noticed about Wichita when I had seen them play previously. 11-teen having been actually one of the Esports Youth LAN competitors along with his teammates in the past, so certainly he's no stranger to high-pressure matches.
Not at all. 11-teen going up early as well. Nice early challenge. You'd like to see those opportunities get taken away. Some of those shooting lanes as well. Boone trying to put that one through, but defense standing tall early on here for CSI. And 1 minute into this ball game, and we're still fighting over this midfield possession.
A lot of chips up just to be able to test the defense, and it feels like both teams are fine with it. I think you're going to have to do something a bit more creative than that. As I say that, probably the most straightforward chance we've seen from 11-teen. Just kind of falls right in front of his front bumper. He's not able to make it work out, so maybe on the recovery as he's lurking out in the corner, waiting for that clear. He does try and get to it. Boone just that much faster, though.
And on top of that, the boost meters right here for WSU on this defensive segment. They're just draining and dwindling. Cap challenging that one about off the back wall with about 12 boosts. Still makes contact, keeps it away from the offense as well. And on top of that, they get an easy early clear. Driftsies, though, has this one up in the air. Potential double tap. That was going to be missed, though. Off to the left-hand side, you see Mux now trying to get this one centered.
That's one of the hardest things about setting up those double taps. Not only do you have to focus on beating the defender, but then staying focused on in, and it can't get much harder than trying to get a double tap across your momentum.
Yeah.
If Drifty's going to miss those, then granted, most people are going to, so nothing really off their back as they're trying to get a more conventional follow-up, but Boone gets anything but on that save. Incredible put away. Now 11-teen trying his effort on the double, and likewise, not going to make that crucial contact.
Yeah, just slow it down just a tad bit. 11-teen might have put a shot on target right there and made the defense of Wichita respect that one. Instead, you have a little bit of a breakaway and a transition on the offensive end for them so they can start setting some things up for themselves. But the last 2 minutes plus, I think we've seen just a ton of pressure being generated for CSI, but just haven't really seen any results. Cap, double tap potential. That's how it's done. WSU go up in front.
Looks like Staten Island had the chance to be able to get their goals in off the double tap, so Cap shows up. I'm going to show you exactly how it's supposed to be done. Taking all their time, which is the luxury afforded when you first beat out that defender that dives on in as the primary challenge. You have all the time in the world to put it home, and I think a lot of players struggle with that. They try to rush it to make sure it's pounded on in as fast as possible, but sometimes just making sure it's below the bar is all really the accuracy you need.
Demolition again coming out for Cap. Gonna be his second one of this ball game, and start to see a little bit of aggression from him. The first one was a relief for on the defensive end. This one's to reset the offense here. Good job by Mux and Drifties bringing this one towards the orange half. I'm sorry, my apologies, the yellow half of Wichita State. Mux up in the air, trying to go for another put back here from 11-teen. Not going to be on target though. Good defense right now for Wichita.
Mux going all the way to the backboard. I like the idea from Driftsy. The problem is couldn't catch up to their own team's pass. It looked like a deflection more than an actual set down. Speaking of, Busey's also going to put a lot on that one. Boone able to rescue it over to Cap, but for the most part, just a little bit of a keep away, which only lasts so long. Busey's trying their best to keep it around, but a nice fake from Mux. And that it looks like everything is kind of reset here and slowed on down. Wichita, our higher seeded team, not necessarily saying they're saying the favorites within the series, but right now they're not really taking the commanding lead that they might want to. Maybe they're just waiting for their opening, but at the very least, they just got to focus on defense, I think, at this point.
I was going to say, sometimes as the shot's going to find its way through, Huey's going to add his name on for Wichita State. Went up 2-0 now, almost 60 seconds left, but to say sometimes it takes that extra game. You know, that first game, you get the, stream jitters, I like to call it. But Wichita State taking full-on advantage of this one. Staten Island looking a little flat, but like I said before, they're generating a ton of pressure, just really haven't had their luck yet on the offensive end.
And right now it seems like Wichita being able to get that second, as I mentioned, that I wasn't thinking that they were having too much offensive pressure. They're able to slowly whittle down the defense. I think that's the important part, especially now that CSI is going to start getting desperate, reaching in for some stuff as Ro16 pre-flips, not going to make contact. Boone, you can't say the same about him. Clanger right into the open net.
Yeah, solid shot right here, solid putback as well. This is what that pressure is going to generate eventually. Ro16 recognizes that one, tries to jump on in front of it early. Boone just has the angle, and he's just that much faster as well. Wichita, they've been tacking on these points here in the last couple of minutes. 51 seconds left. I would say it's still possible for Staten Island, but at the same time, the way that this offense has been playing right now late for Wichita, it's looking a little bit more inevitable in their favor.
I think right now the important thing is that they're just trying to play that perimeter defense as the players slowly start on out, and then they just kind of tap it right back in. Even then, when they get the long clear, they're not really too concerned about shutting down the midfield. They know that College of Staten Island has to come to them, and I think they're using that to their advantage. So the time starts to tick down. I think Staten Island can be somewhat proud of at least the beginning of this game, but I think as it got away from them, they started to panic, started to dive in, and that's something you really can't have happening, especially here in this quarterfinal. Best of 7 notwithstanding, capping potentially the scoring off for the number 4.
I like that one right there. Capping off this one, getting some momentum headed into the next game as well. And, you know, like you said beforehand, long series, Staten Island, it's a best of 7. Nothing really to get rattled about just yet, but you know, it's a little bit worrisome having 0 goals inside this first opening match for them. Maybe Ro16 is going to, as I say that, it pops over to the left-hand side. I was going to say maybe he has a little bit of luck on their side. Final seconds ticking away. This one has been all Wichita ever since this one has pretty much crossed the midfield in this game. So first game going to Wichita. I can't say that I'm surprised right now, Danger Taco, but we still have a lot of Rocket League left.
Yeah, particularly the thing that stands out to me from the CSI side is that they were not helpless. I think a lot of teams, when they start losing these games, or at least if you rewind and watch it back, when it was just simply 0-0 or maybe even just 1-0, it was very much back and forth. There were some double tap chances. They were getting open shots. The thing is if you don't convert those, then eventually the time starts ticking down and you start limiting your ability to actually come back, which then I think led to some moments of panic where even though it was 1-0, started doubling in. They're not pressing the ball correctly. The rotation's a little janky in that you don't have the immediate follow-ups that you need, and I think Wichita, being a high seed, they know how to take advantage of that, and they certainly did within the second half of that first game.
Yeah, I really feel like there's still so much more left out here for Staten Island. No, Ro16, 3 shots, no goals. He had a couple, chances, like we said beforehand, for a couple double taps, and he just left it out there on the field. And ever since that midway point through that game number 1, it was just all Wichita, and it was really, really hard for Staten Island to kind of cross that midfield line. So if they have any chance, they have to replicate what they did in the beginning half of that first game and kind of push the envelope and actually see some success on the offensive side as well.
And being able to actually capitalize on offense, I think, is a multi-part endeavor. I think just taking better shots in general is great, but I think just being able to maintain offense should be priority number 1. So as Wichita's success came from really locking down the midfield, I think the same has to be said about CSI. I think this is a good start with one evenly spaced as Mux takes over from the corner.
I was going to say that as well. It's just a solid start here. Staten Island bringing this ball, keeping the pressure on, starting to control the boost a tad bit as well. But you see a little bit of sloppiness on the rotation. They're not really trying to, they're trying to get this ball centered, but it's not really good touches. Mux shot can be denied. Drifties, though, that shot's going to be put right back in their face. Good initial save right here from Wichita, but at the same time, just a ton of pressure being generated early.
I really do like those putbacks. I'm not a huge fan of that near post challenge coming in from Wichita. It's one thing to be able to get in front of it and just tap the ball. The problem is it kind of just lobs it into the middle, and I think that's really where the dominoes started falling. Still, requires everyone in rotation to get that one, because after all, the first 2 saves did come in. That's why 3v3 is all about having quick follow-ups and being able to pound that one in. So first lead of the series, that's the building block through which they can maybe start to build a foundation into this quarterfinal.
Cap has this one in the corner, going for a demolition onto the goal line, trying to open up something here for the offense of Wichita. Not really mad about it, but I feel like it's a tad bit too early for that. Going for that bump strategy, demolition strategy early on here in game 2, and only down by 1. Good shot from Cap right here as well. Mux gonna deny him. Struggling on the boost department, though. Can't really get a good clear. Oh, that one's almost redirected off the backboard. Boone to Vusies. Can't really come up with it, though. But look at the pressure being mounted right here from Wichita.
And I really do like this left and right rotation, or rather I liked it because now it is over across the midfield line. But at the very least, playing possession, getting those boost deals, I think that's a solid ability that you can have as a team. And if you're able to actually capitalize on it correctly, then you pretty much lock a team in their half indefinitely until you miss those challenges. Or you see a double commit in the backfield. Mux has to reach for that, barely gets the save out, and they narrowly escape going 1-1.
Yeah, that was Boone just 1v1 the whole entire time down the line. And on top of that, he even got bumped in transition and still somehow managed to get that one through. And you've seen the Cap and the follow-up touches as well, and just not going to be able to find their mark. Cap with the demolition as well, trying to maybe even go for a challenge onto that ball to put that one in. Even the score line, not going to happen just yet, but Wichita, they're knocking on the door. Boone off the ceiling, uses that flip at the last second, almost an upper 90 shot. That one's going to be denied. The putback from Vusies is too wide as well. Shot after shot just being too wide right now for Wichita.
And right now the problem is from Wichita is that they're running out of space here on a lot of these shots. They're getting pressured by College Stat down, but ultimately they have the shots off, but they're just not able to actually put them in an ideal situation. And even worse than that, it looks like Staten Island is not afraid on offense. Be able to dive on in. They might be afraid here. If 11-team doesn't get on it, he gets all of that one. Mux to the backboard, a bit high and wide, but either way, Cap's going to run into his own near post, so not necessarily a quick follow.
Yeah, on top of that, Boone just challenging that one, trying to get this ball over towards the blue half, and he had little to no boost to work with there to kind of extend that play in their favor, and that one just kind of falls to the wayside and right back towards midfield we go. But speaking of which, halfway point in this ball game has come and went, so we should start seeing Wichita start to heat up just a tad bit if it's a replication of the first game. Cap, early goal, can he get the double off the backboard? The pass not going to find its way either. Boone and Busey, I'm not really mad about him at that one. So a lot of time on that clock, you do want to concede a goal here.
And I really do like the role that Cap has started to come into. He likes to be able to keep these air dribbles close and get doubles, somewhat like that one attempted. It's not going to work out this time, but at the very least, it's something that I think, unless Staten Island wants to actually press the ball, they're going to be in trouble. But the same can be said about Wichita. You got to get on this one. Mux off the bar. Very nearly a second, and yet Wichita also being blessed by the woodwork.
Yeah, on top of that, you saw it early. You saw the recognition. Boone didn't want to go for the challenge. He just left that one floating, which was smart, but at the same time, very risky maneuver. Look at Boone now going for a couple demos, trying to open up, get some of these people off of the field. That's what happens when you start to go to that demolition strategy. 11-team, respectable shot. Has to be respected by the defense at the very least. Mux now, ground to air. Can he get these things done? Maybe extend that lead. It'll be denied. 60 seconds remaining here in game number 2.
The one off the backboard, Cap reaching for it, and he will be cleared out past Boone as well, but he'll at least stay on it as he lands. Interesting 50 all the way back to Driftsy, who will then send it to the far side. 11-team already up for it, but so is Cap. This could be a chance for Vusies to catch, but Mux is able to muck up the defender, getting in the way and just kind of tapping them to the side. And it's just tiny moments like that from Staten Island that are keeping them in this game, and it's shots like that that might just win it for him.
Yeah, I saw this as soon as it came off the sidewall. This is such a good read right here from Mux. He beats, gets the 50-50. 11-team was lurking towards midfield, and that shot is just a rocket that fires into the back of the net. Staten Island 2-0 right now, 33 seconds left. We need to see some kickoff strategy right here from Wichita State to have a chance of coming back.
I think it just seems more stable from CSI this time around. It feels like they're handling shots well. And yes, there are some that I feel like should have probably gone in or at least been a bit more fear-inducing from the side of Wichita. But ultimately, I don't really think they're playing poorly. It's just Staten Island has been playing better. And I think as long as they can maintain this and be able to handle whatever Wichita throws at them in the future, I think they're just fine, especially in the future of this series, because this one is pretty much done and dusted, especially with that 50 going through. There is not enough time on the clock, and it looks like we have a series on our hands.
Staten Island not going down without a fight. Series is going to be tied, and I do like what you said back there, Danger Taco. There was a lot of chances right here for Wichita State to actually tack some points on. A lot of shots coming through. You see 5 right there from Cap, a handful right there from Vusies as well. And then Boone was just up in the face of the defenders, trying to get anything to work in their favor on the offensive side, but it just was not working this time for Wichita State. So the defense standing tall for Staten Island. On top of that, they paired that with some pretty good offense.
And I think the main thing for me is also noticing the shot count very even across everyone on CSI. You have 3 shots, 2 shots, and 3, which showing that you're not just relying on one player. I often see that sometimes in offense, and it's actually something I highlighted earlier on. I said, Cap, I really like the role for Wichita, but it feels like he's the one actually driving those threatening plays, and everyone else is waiting for a putback. I think I need a bit more experimentation. Where was Wichita in game number 1? That play style of going for those exit demos, being able to hit the ball quickly off the ceiling, testing the reads of Staten Island. It felt like they were slowing things down, and I don't really know if that's the game they want to be playing right now.
Yeah, on top of that, I mean, they had chance after chance. Think back to about the 3-minute mark in that game number 2, where there was just a barrage of shots over there. Staten Island was just heroically saving a lot of those shots out of the net, off to the side, left, right, wherever in between. They just could not find their breaking point whatsoever. So Wichita State struggling just a tad bit on the offensive side. But like I said beforehand, Staten Island's defense, they showed up, and all they needed to do was just play better than game number 1, and they did just that.
Cap able to start off game number 3 with an interesting just tap forward, but Staten Island again trying to set up camp. Back pass is actually coming in from Wichita, which won't necessarily help them maintain possession, but if CSI doesn't get on this one, they might be a little bit more worse for wear. Boone able to capture it right there, and I will say Wichita getting a bit more experimental at the start, but it's not really going to help their luck. Cap barely getting that save away, so it looks like the razor-sharp offense of CSI has maintained into game 3.
Top of that, I like that possession right there from Staten Island. They were aggressive with it. They brought 2 people up with that one. I believe it was Mux and Drifties. And on top of that, Mux, I think, went for just a demolition strategy. Look at the redirect! Oh my goodness, 11-team with the lead. Mux with the goal.
And I was thinking as 11-team was ramping up for this one, I'm like, okay, that's just going to be a clear. I'm not sure what Mux is doing. He was calling it out. I'm sure he's just like Randy Moss downfield. He's like, just find me and I'll be able to put something on it. And there, you can't ask for a more clean contact. Even the defender waiting for that shot was completely bamboozled when it came down to stopping it. Cap trying to answer back with a ground pinch, but he's not able to find similar luck. How about Vusies on the putback right into 11-team?
Yeah, the defense for Staten Island has showed up, and Wichita, they're in trouble. They need to start to crack this code, whether it be get these guys off the pitch, whether it be some fast passing attempts like that one right there. 11-team in the face of danger just stands so tall. This one's popped up in the air as well from Drifties. Gonna be off the backboard. Cap with the early challenge, gonna take the opportunity away. A little bit of a double commitment right here for Staten Island. Wichita might have a counter.
Boone shot on target with a lead block, but 11-team gets it. Mux left alone off the bar, and he's able to maintain the composure, getting the 50 out in front, but they are not out of the eye of the storm yet here. Boone, another shot coming in, and yet the Shockers just can't get this one through. It's like they are enemies against all 3 players as well as the woodwork. They just cannot find the similar luck that they found in game number 1, and I don't think it's necessarily a thing to hang their head, but you know the tilt starts to build the more and more you're getting rejected.
I was going to say the frustration. It has to be frustrating. You know, you're firing shot after shot, and you just can't find pay dirt, and it gets frustrating to say the least. This one had a chance. Mux going to keep this one out as well. Drifties right back towards midfield we go. Cap in a 2v1 situation. He wins that exchange. He brings this one right back towards the blue half. A little pass infield. Going to be denied by Staten Island once again. Drifties, nice extension right here. Should reset this offense for Wichita.
Boone's going to have even more time to reset as he's going to be sent to the Shadow Realm. Mux will take advantage, I would say temporarily, of the spacing, but then into the clear. 11-team is able to spawn back in. Now Boone on the infield pass, shut down by Drifty, and then he misses the shot. I think he maybe considered he had less time than he actually did. Either way, still showing that they are not shying away from playing quick offense, trying to punish these mistakes.
We'll put back from Cap. Mux keeps it away. Uzis. I was to say, Boone's fighting that midfield right now with Mux for a 100 pad and trying to win that exchange. I'm not too sure who won that battle, but nonetheless, it still slows down the offense once again for Wichita. 11-team. Gonna float this one right back towards the back of the net, or back of the backboard. My apologies. Cap is there for the early challenge. Here comes Mux now. Nice floater, trying to get out the way. Drifties was trying to get up there as well. 11-team. That 50-50 is won by the Wichita defense. Here comes Mux now. Easy double, but it's not so easy. Doesn't finish it.
Oh my goodness, Mux, I don't know what they ate in between games, but suddenly they're just trying to hit everything, and they're looking a lot, I would say, highly confident plays as well, going for these upfield redirects as well as getting those double taps and then playing point guard into Driftsy with a laser to the top shelf.
That was such a clean shot right here. Defense, rotation was there. They just were a tad bit too slow on the rotation on the back end. Left a little bit of a window of opportunity. The Staten Island take full on advantage of that one. They go up 2-0 now, and at what point in time do you have to be worried here for Wichita? I think it's been, what, 6 minutes plus since they scored a goal on offense?
I mean, it's been a while, but I would say more importantly, it's not necessarily for a lack of trying here. They have been able to cross the double-digit threshold. They're sitting at 11 shots right now just in game number 3, Wichita. And being able to have all those chances, hit it off the bar, continuously getting saved. It starts to wonder, like, are these shots just not good enough, or are we just not actually forcing out this defense into a situation where it's not just a casual parry to the sidewall? Certainly doesn't help that these counterattacks are being done with a lot of speed and a lot of tenacity from CSI, as even on the counterattacks, looks like Cap, they're just trying to reach the ball, much less actually direct it in the best possible position.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. I think it's just too predictable right now for Wichita State. And I mean, as one-dimensional as it may seem, I mean, they're going for a one pass and then a shot towards net, and the defense is just there, and they recognize it. And they recognize it early as well. But paired with just like, we don't care anymore, we're up by 2 goals with short time, they're just going to be in your face now, and that's going to be, you know, pretty much troublesome right here for Wichita. As the final 15 seconds tick away here in game number 3, Staten Island has been on an absolute terror. On top of that, paired with some poor Wichita offense, hopefully can get things going here in the next game. Final 3 seconds now. Muck's back towards midfield. This one's off to the ceiling. Maybe a double touch added to the highlight reel, but Boone says, no thank you. We're not going to get clipped on today, at least not right now.
A big fan of the rotation to end off game 3. It does not end in a goal, but that Muck's double tap, if it went in, would have capped off a really nice sequence of the past 5 to 10 seconds. You had CSI getting clears, going up, not even challenging the ball, knowing it's just going to be an immediate clear, stealing boost, wiping through the midfield, or rather the backfield, to be able to try and get demos on those last defenders, and then stealing the back boost again, and then rotating out. No one is out of position, no one's overcommitting. It's just controlled movement with a lot of speed and a lot of mix-ups, and I feel like Wichita, I would say they didn't know how to handle that, but ultimately, I think this entire 5 minutes, they felt very disheveled. It felt like a lot of those shots going on target were okay chances, but again, you need something to go through, and I agree with your rendition of everything as well. I think it is too straightforward. They need to start changing things up. Otherwise, I think this series is looking down a dire path that's now too straight for CSI.
Yeah, 2 straight scoreless games, I think, for Wichita State here. On top of that, you saw Cap trying to, you know, have some solo pop-off goals. Think back to that, you know, air dribble that he had. He was trying to go for the ground pinch to finish it off, but, you know, Staten Island's defense just recognized that, got in the face of it, and, you know, cleared it off over into the corner. And then they got a forward clear on top of that, too. So I think, you know, if Wichita have a chance at this one to even pull back, even start to score some goals, they have to control this midfield line. I really feel like Staten Island is getting some far clears in their favor that keeps them at bay.
And being able to keep them at bay, I think, is the main thing, because as CSI starts to win, I'm curious to see what this will do to their confidence. And I mean that not necessarily just in the emotional state, but also with what they're going for. I notice a lot of aggression on offense. Sometimes it can be a double-edged sword, as you can overcommit, but as long as the position stays fine, then I suppose we're in for a treat for the remainder. Is the lower seed, the 7th seed, almost the last seed allowed in this bracket. He's really trying to put on a show against one of the favorites. Boone starting off trying to show that, but Vuzy's putback is not going to be good enough.
Cap still keeping pressure on. I was going to say that one was worrisome. Drifties has no boost, though. Mux in a heap load of trouble still keeps that one away. Nice infield pass. 1-2 delivers finally for Wichita State. They take the lead.
That looked almost entirely based on placement there. Boone can't ask for a better pass there over to Cap, and as you notice, he kind of just single jumps into it because he's more concerned about the cut. He wants it to go exactly on that near post. Really, anything else might just get deflected or be too weak to be able to be a truly threatening shot. Either way, it ends that scoreless drought, and at the very least, I think allows the players just to exhale at a certain point and say, okay, we can score again. Now let's just focus on closing things down and repeating game 1.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well. Just a sigh of relief at that point in time. I know how frustrating it could be. As a solid third man is what my plan is when I play Rocket League. Just try to get the ball to the scorers. And at this point in time, anybody from Wichita State is that solid front runner who can score the ball, but it's just been so deflating to see them not be able to pop off like how they do. Speaking of popping off, look at Cap right now trying to go for a flip reset. I think he didn't connect with the flip. Had he would have, it probably would have been a goal in that situation.
11-team, able to find Driftsy. Boone actually a little bit late on this one. Mux, double tap, potentially just a touchdown to 11-team. I would say a bit of confusion there, which is not going to work out for them. I would say no harm, no foul, but you never know on the counter. Boone able to get that pass, and like I expected, if you don't shut that down, it is going in your net.
Yeah, I really feel like Staten Island right now, they're playing so much more aggressive. You were wondering how their mental was going to be. They've got a little bit cocky, a little bit confident as well in the offense, a little bit cocky in the defense as well. Now they conceded 2 goals unanswered in Wichita State's favor. And you don't want these guys to start heating up, because if you do, it's going to be worrisome. It's going to be troublesome for you guys for the rest of the day as well. Now they're up 2-0. Looking at potentially tying this series right back up.
And now it looks like they're playing a bit more like that second seed here, Wichita. They're also able to shut things down immediately and then be decisive. I think it's really important when you get those opportunities on the counter. You see someone lurking downfield. If they're unmarked or maybe there's an avenue to get a shot off, just being able to immediately hit that and then hit it with venom on target, I think is seemingly such an easy task. So many teams kind of give those up because they're just too worried about the immediate touch and maybe just clear it downfield instead.
All right, back to work. Wichita State go. Tap off the left side. Good 50-51. Drifties! Open net. Ka-chow indeed. Staten Island will be down by 1 now. Look at this transition here.
Man, I love that from Mux, and this is also exactly why it's really important to practice those double taps, and more importantly, how you position your car when you do get those. Mux not only being able to drag it away from the middle, but then getting a pinch to perfectly lay it into the middle. You can see actually on that replay, all of Wichita started moving up because they're thinking it's just going to go straight up. It's going to get killed and fall down at the sideline, but instead nobody is even within the zip code to stop that shot.
Staten Island fire back halfway point through this game here. Game number 4. Boone has possession, no boost. Nice bumps. 11-teen getting worked out of the way there in that situation. Still stands tall, though, as the rest of Staten Island's defense. Drifties, let's just say, had that one awkward angle, though. 11-teen off the backboard now. Mux trying to come up early on that one. Wichita State starting to wear down defensively. Here comes the putback as well. Drifties, the open net. Mux just the softest touch. It might not be the prettiest, but it gets the job done.
I really just like it. Again, it's CSI. They're not afraid to be able to take those close angle shots, but the thing I actually like the most about that from Drifties is that it's not the hardest shot. It's actually somewhat of a soft touch just back in the middle because they know the defense kind of flailing around, and it's the second time in the series we have seen an attack really just be first shot, second shot, and then third man just coming in to play cleanup as Wichita goes flailing around and trying to dive in front.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was a big problem right there, too. There was just like a triple commit to that first initial shot, just baiting out the whole rest of the offense. Boone with the missed opportunity over here in the offensive end for Wichita. Cap going right back to work. Another double commitment right here coming from Staten Island. I'm not too sure what's going on with the communication here, but we've seen that several times so far here just in this game number 4. We haven't really seen that in the previous games before, so something to kind of keep our eyes on as this one progresses.
Bucks doing a little 270 spin action in their own corner to get that turn on and challenge, which might lead to 11-teen, but no contact. A little bit of double commit in the midfield means Cap might have an opening. 11-teen trying to jut on in, and he's not able to do so. 3-2 lead back to our yellow side.
That was so close. He was trying his absolute hardest. He got bumped by Mux on the rotation back through. He just basically tried to use that flip to power his way through as well. Had no boost. If he would have had just even a 12 pad at that point in time, I believe it would have got back and at least redirected that one off the backboard. But nonetheless, it falls to the wayside. Wichita go back up by 1.
It's part of the reason why I mentioned that being aggressive on offense and wanting to get on the ball all the time is somewhat of a double-edged sword. You notice on that one there was a weak touch from 11-teen, and the second player, instead of just letting the play go and allowing their teammate to maybe try to rescue it, they try to go in and dive on through, but then that results in one player beating out the ball for Wichita State, and then it beats out the entirety of the defense. So you got to make sure you keep your head in a swivel and realize some balls, they're just not worth going for.
Yeah, 100% agree with that one. That's the problem with Rocket League in general. Just some balls, sometimes you don't touch them, and you let the Rocket League gods kind of take over, or let your teammate kind of come up with them because they have a better shot or a better angle. And sometimes people just say see ball, hit ball. It doesn't work out all the time in their favor. So unfortunate right now for Staten Island. They're trying to fight their way back, and 11-teen powered that one off the backboard. Didn't really have a good look at that, but nonetheless, Wichita State pushing forward. 30 seconds left.
Interesting double, and Cap trying to make it even more interesting with a hard angle shot. Driftsy not taking any chances on that one. Soft air dribble into the catch. Uzis is there to be able to put that one through. Boone into Cap, weak shot, but the bump attempt keeps it interesting. A little bit of pinball inside the box, but Staten Island gets it out, but that's not enough. It's got to go coast to coast. That's a start. 11-teen deflection straight down the corner, met by Boone. Driftsy, another one tried, but the demo in the backfield means it's going to be Wichita hanging on to even up the series yet again.
Yeah, I like the push, though, late there from Staten Island. They were trying their absolute hardest to keep that one off of the ground, and you just saw Wichita just buckle down, get that ball out of the corner, and then clear it over towards the far side. Cap with the icing on the cake where he just gets the demolition just for, I guess, just for, for it. You want to make sure nobody keeps that ball up in the air for Staten Island. But nonetheless, good job from Wichita State coming back in this matchup. Cap, the highlight right now, 2 goals, 5 shots. And then, of course, over on Staten Island, you have 2 goals as well, one from Mux, one from Drifties. But it was not enough. Danger Taco was, falling 1 goal short, and a little bit of lapse of defense right there from Staten Island.
In my opinion, those are some of the most irritating losses, just because it's not necessarily that you're just being strictly outplayed. It's goals that you more or less kind of give to the opponents, and that's something that you're saying, I can dive in, what's the worst that can happen? And then as soon as your ball cam starts to rotate across and you start looking in the backfield, you realize, I was very much the last line of defense there. So you shake those off, you laugh it off, and that's exactly why you are in these longer series, these best of 7s in these quarterfinals, because yes, it is lose and go home, but at the very least, you have some time to make up for it, at least one more, because no team is looking for match point quite yet. This is the game to determine who's going to be moving to that game state. So picking into the next 5 minutes, I honestly don't even know what to expect from this series anymore.
Yeah, on top of that, it's a coin flip at this point in time. Everything's all even again. It goes back down to like a best of 3 at this point in time. And Staten Island's been playing really good, but at the same time, they've had their flare-ups of mistakes. Same can be said for Wichita, though. Their offense has been looking very powerful, but Staten Island's defense has been looking a little bit more, I guess you could say, prominent out here on the pitch, because they have had some lapses, especially this one right here. Busey's has the go-ahead goal to start off early here for Wichita.
That's a tough one. I don't even mind that idea from Mux, as he was actually chasing Boone just to try to prevent him from getting a touch, and he gets the demo. The problem is then the ball hits off that sidewall, and then nobody's there for the follow-up. They're able to set it up off the backboard, get a somewhat slow shot, but change-ups are effective across sports for a reason. The defense just can't really react in time and kind of falters in the crucial moment.
Yeah, on top of that, sometimes you take a little bit of speed off. Like I said before, it's not the prettiest of goals, but it works out. Ooh, nice demolition from Drifty. He's trying to open up the door right there for 11-team. Uses on the rotation back through, does stop that one from going in. So unfortunate right there, but a huge missed opportunity for Staten Island. Right back to work they go. 11-team off the ceiling. Nice pass down towards the infield. Mux going to be denied, though, from the defense of Wichita. This is a good extension right here from Busey's as well. Cap might have an open look. 11-team comes out of nowhere and saves that one away.
I think 11-team was waiting for a touch and then realized halfway through that they didn't really have that luxury. There was a player rushing it on down, much like Boone is on this one. Driftsy getting rejected. Cap downfield should be in, I think, on its own, but Boone might just want to secure this just to be sure, and that's exactly why the defense, great recovery to shove that into the woodwork and out.
I can't believe he saved that one away. I thought Boone had that one dead to rights, and I think he thought that one was in as well, but the hustle back from Staten Island keeps this one a 1-0 ball game. Now they might even find themselves in the equal score line. They have a couple opportunities here. Cap rushes that one just a tad bit, still gains control of it. A little bit of a mistake right here from Staten Island's offense. Boone will go for a quick shot off the backboard. It lips up. Busey's going to be denied by Driftsies. Oh my goodness, what a pre-jump read I think he had.
Being able to get those pre-jumps, it's gone from something that I think was more of a cocky mechanic that a lot of people thought was just being purely arrogant and jumping up, and instead of just actually shutting down options for the offense, if you're able to get those pre-jumps, and it feels like halfway through a lot of air dribbles or individual passes from the offense, they don't really know how to adjust for it. So I'm a huge fan of that, and I hope to see more from this Staten Island team. I would also like to see more goals, because despite all these improvements and somewhat stabilizing here in game number 5, still looking for that first goal as we're crossing halftime.
Drifties to keep Wichita out of the score line so far. Boone, wraparound pass, not going to find its mark. Staten Island pinned back into their blue half. Guaranteed Wichita State's like, we'll take this. More time off the clock being wasted. Not really going for anything too crazy just yet. They know how quickly this game can kind of turn and be equal. Good 50 right there from Busey's. Going to keep this possession over on the blue half once again. And this is what we need to see from Wichita the last couple of games. Just the sheer amount of pressure. On top of that, just controlling this midfield line. Drifties is trying to get it clear upfield. He does win the 50, but he has no boost.
11-team smartly able to dive on in, but then realizes the fake challenge might be a little bit more apt for that situation. And now with a sequence of demos, it's a temporary 2v2 as both players have been taken off the field from each side Now they're back, so nothing too bad. You mentioned Wichita might just be thinking about managing this clock, and I think that's an underappreciated aspect of strategy in Rocket League. Right now they know they just have to play keep away, much like Cap, trying to keep it close with another solo play. Look for a bump on the last defender, off the post yet again. How many times has he been robbed like that?
So many times. I guarantee he's frustrated. At least 3 I think I can think back of at this point in time. Almost 60 seconds left here for Staten Island. They're getting a little bit desperate, which is good. I mean, you're down by 1 goal. When time is getting short, you have to start going for a little bit more of a desperation strategy. If you might want to say, this is a good demolition from Cap nonetheless. It's going to open up the door for the rotation. And on top of that, somehow he ends up with the ball in this situation to put a shot on target.
I think this is also somewhat of a risky play. You don't always want to be on the outside of a play and then be able to knock it in the middle. That's often deflected, usually into your own net. But in that occasion, he knew he had the player beat out, and it was just about making sure it rolled in between the sticks. Yeah. And that second goal in that nice insurance blanket to be able to cushion the remaining minute here. CSI really, as you mentioned, desperation before. Now they're just going to be clawing for anything, but it looks like they're not receiving much help on offense. In fact, it's just more and more defense. Boone trying to put this one away and overthinks the finish.
I want to reiterate the fact that whoever wins this game goes on to match points. Wichita State trying to hang on to this 2-goal lead. 35 seconds left. 11-team should try to get the clear upfield. Drifties and him both on the same corner, which is pretty much a big no-no if you're a Rocket League fanatic. You don't ever want to be in the same corner with your teammate there in that situation. 20 seconds remaining now. Mux towards midfield. That one's going to be off the sidewall. No boost for a follow-up. He does try to go for the boost steal to try to set something up here for Staten Island, but I think it's just too little too late. Boone, the far clear over towards the opposite end. The transition. Cap wins that exchange as well. This is just a back-and-forth matchup, and it's a lot closer than what it appears on the scoreline nonetheless, but here comes a shot. Maybe a little bit for the road. Mux does win that exchange. And it looks like Staten Island are going to go down by 1, but more importantly, Wichita State moving on to match point.
And getting that goal in 0 seconds is nice, but it's only going to help them in the history books when saying, that was a pretty close game. I would say pretty much anything but Wichita State able to get a victory. And I feel like really trying to reaffirm this is why we have had such a high seed going into this bracket. This is why we played so well in the regular season, because we can put things away when we need to and be able to get a +10 shot differential pretty much going across, or +9 rather, with that final shot going through from Muxie. So clearly we are seeing Wichita State start to enter maybe a flow state in this series. And I think that's really the first thing Staten Island needs to learn how to disrupt.
Yeah, on top of that, I mean, you look at the stats right here for Staten Island, and you look and you go, hey, they have 6 saves, though. They were doing something good. Their defense is still playing phenomenal. But at the same time, there's a tale of 2 tales there. Basically, you get forced into your half of the field, and you start to get forced into a majority of these saves. And that's why you have so many saves headed into this one. So it's a little bit worrisome for the offense here for Staten Island. Meanwhile, Wichita State, like you said, starting to heat up. On top of that, they're controlling the pace of the game. They're willing to waste the clock down. They're not trying to add more unnecessary, I guess you could say, challenges or goals onto their stat line unless they see an opportunity. Then that's when they start to capitalize on those mistakes right there from the defense.
And we do not have timeouts in this format, but at the very least, we do have a player, I believe, on CSI who's actually restarting the computer right now. So potentially fixing some frame issues, or maybe just trying to make sure that they feel a little bit cleaner. Something went wrong. Who knows? I can't really attribute how much of that game was due to the reasons why they have to restart. But we will be taking a brief pause for this. And I think that's important, mainly because now that you are behind, you are on that match point, or rather your opponent is on that match point. I think this is really where you just need to be able to calm each other down. I think the worst thing you want to do is go into this game with that little edge of anxiety. I think a little is good to that optimal range to get you to pay a bit more attention, be cautious instead of just diving in and everything. But I think too much, and then you start to make impulsive decisions, maybe do things you're not really accustomed to. And so I think being able to just take some deep breaths and then kind of refocus on what went wrong could probably be an optimal approach here.
Yeah, on top of that, you get a little bit of extra time to kind of talk about what happened as well on the pitch. And, Staten Island, I really feel like those double commitment issues really started to be a factor for them here in this game number 4. Basically, they brought that with them into the next game as well. Wichita State, you saw how clean and concise they were. They basically are passing the ball to one another. They're open communications. And on top of that, they're just keeping a tremendous amount of pressure onto the backs of Staten Island. So that restart might be needed as far as the frame rate issues go. But on top of that, they get, like you said, that breather, that fresh air, walk around your room, stretch a little bit, get the blood flowing a little bit more as well. And, any competitor can sit here and tell you get like a little bit of cold hands, cold feet, whatever it may be. But more importantly, get that blood flowing back to the brain and, get the thought process flowing again.
Would love to have blood flow to the brain. Optimal thing to have happen within an esports competition. But at the end of the day, yeah, you also need it to be able to be running into your hands, keep it warm, and that's why
Exactly.
I feel like a lot of competitors, I never really understood why they wore hoodies and why they were able to like layer up when they're playing in such a higher stress environment, because I feel like I'd be sweaty, but no, it can get cold there sometimes, and you got to make sure that does not happen to you, and you got to make sure the only cold is you when you're icing up on the pitch. In the clutch, can CSI bring this one to a Game 7, or are we saying goodbye to them for this semester of ECAC action?
Man, I could see it going either way, to be honest with you, especially if Staten Island start off with the possession, which they have. But if they can score with this possession is more important, it'll definitely be a huge exclamation point in their favor. And on top of that, just get the monkey off your back, you know, just essentially score first and then worry about the clock management later and just keep the pressure on to the backs of Wichita State. Because I tell you what, Wichita State, I mean, we've seen them play phenomenal on the offensive end, but we just haven't really seen them play with that comeback mentality just yet. They kind of been falling flat once they go down.
And that's actually a huge thing, and why there's often statistics trying to be collected about teams that go down first and how often they lose those games, and also vice versa, how many times the offense just scores once, and that's really all they need for momentum, and then they just kind of capitalize from there and kind of plow through their opponents. I think it's because it's so difficult to be able to kind of reset that momentum, just kind of say, okay, it's fine, and then go back to work. And I think for both these teams are having a decent bit struggle. We haven't really seen a lot of games been back and forth, except that one back in Game 3, I believe. So I would think I would be welcome to return to that one, as well as getting some finishes off. Stripsy tried, but can't quite connect.
Yeah, just misses contact right there, and you know he wants that one back, especially with it being such an open look. This one's off the backboard. This is awkward as well. I can't believe this one finds its way in, but Mux will take it. Like I said before, it's not the prettiest goal, but it gets the job done. More importantly, Staten Island go up in front.
Huge fan of this one from Mux, particularly because they know that the defense is not in a position that can really get on that one at all. So they lob that one high, bounces off, and instead of just aerialing up immediately and going for a double tap, they wait for it to fall down because they know pretty much both players in near post have no chance if they strike it cleanly. And Mux has been a player that has stepped up previously. It's glad to see he's still got that ability.
Shot coming through right now. Driftsies is going to keep that one away. That was Vusies over there for Wichita, trying to get things going. Mux once again, air dribble. Not really going to find its mark. A little bit of help from Boone, though. Going to be off the backboard. 11-team. This is what I like. Slow things down. You don't have to rush anything. You know for a fact the defense is not going to be pushing up towards you just yet. Your teammates are kind of trying to communicate that to you as well, so smart play by him, but at the same time, didn't really get a second clear, and Mux didn't really help in that situation either. You saw 11-team with only about 16 boosts in the tank, and he had to make a fast decision, and that's when the offense of Wichita just started to push up on him.
Driftsy making sure the defense of Wichita State can't push up too far as a long clear downfield sends them packing up until they lob another one. It's a counter of their own, or at least an attempt at one. Cap. No read off the ceiling as Mux will send it again. And I think now we've reached an interesting midpoint, both in the literal sense of halftime, but also just now where we're in somewhat of a midfield stalemate. Both players just kind of tapping it back and forth, waiting for an opening. Boone tried to create one, but his effort going to be going just wide yet again.
Halfway point in this matchup right here. Mux bringing it up towards the midfield line, trying to get a pass going over to his teammate. You saw Driftsies waiting on the three-quarters of the way upfield. He was trying to, catch the defense off guard just a tad bit. It was a speedy pass. I'll play those ones a little bit closer, and he was doing just that. Boone with a great save. Mux on the demolition on the back end towards midfield. This one could open up the door. Mux trying his absolute hardest right now to get a secondary goal to put Staten Island out in front, but so far Wichita's defense has been standing so tall.
I think I'm watching a lot of these boost pickups from the side of CSI, and that last play, 11-team got both boosts in the backfield and a bump on the defender, and yet there was still no one to follow it up from CSI, and that's why it's so important to be able to obviously get your boost, get your pathing correct, but then be able to just be close enough to follow up plays. A lot of offense isn't even made from good shooting. It's just being able to constantly crash on the boards and make sure you're putting things back. It's almost like rebounds in basketball, so either way, how it goes in or how it doesn't, I think effective offense, at the very least, just keeping it in that attacking third is going to do wonders as we're entering nearly the final minute with CSI holding on to an incredibly slim lead.
Yeah, I was going to say, my basketball coach used to tell me to follow through on your shot, and sometimes in Rocket League that works out in your favor. Boone, though, getting the job done himself. Little ground to air dribble. Good pass from Vusies, though, initially. The defense from 11-team right there just gets baited out. And you see Driftsies, last man back, Mux on the rotation. Just goes wide. Leaves an open net opportunity right there. Wichita tied this one right back up. Almost 60 seconds to go. Looking at potential overtime now.
I mean, your coach is telling you to follow through your shots, so sometimes you can do that in a literal sense within Rocket League, particularly with the air dribble, and that's a nice low boost play as well from Boone. Smart play, just to be able to lob it up, wait for the defender to jump, and then just tap it once up and over them. Be able to get that equalizer is nice, especially in these crucial situations. Muck's trying to do something creative with his teammate as he's actually going to lob that one down. That's off the bar yet again, but Clear is not going to be able to allow them to continue. So final minute, CSI trying to ice up, and they're not reaching that one. It's Cap yet again.
Wow, what a banger of a shot right here. 70 miles an hour on target as well. And I was going to say something as well about this this defense right here from Staten Island. It's been looking so good, but something I've noticed from them, they've been coming outside the box trying to get these challenges early with that third man. And so far, they've been sneaking away with it, but right there in that situation, that's what led to that goal. And ultimately, that demise right there is the final 30 seconds. Tick on the clock.
We're talking about demise, and that might be for the series as well, because we are all done with lives for CSI. They have to win with the 7th seed to be able to stay in this competition, or at the very least just be able to get to game 7, and it's not looking too good, especially if this one goes in. Capped with a miss. 11-teen, leaving it for Mux. He's been a hero before. Can he do it one more time? Doesn't get that side boost to Driftsy into the middle. 11-teen has to keep it up. He does so valiantly. He might be able to touch it, but where is the support? It's nowhere to be found. Wichita State can be found in the semifinals a little bit farther on. GG's to them.
Man, that was such a good finish right there from Wichita on their defensive end, but I'm just so disappointed right there in Staten Island. You've seen Mux bring that ball up the field, and then Driftsies, I think, was the closest person towards midfield, and he just turns away for some strange reason. That's short time on the clock. You have to crash the net right there to try to put any sort of shot right back into the face of the defenders and basically just keep the ball up. And you saw 11-teen, the same thing, keeps the ball up the sidewall. That's something that you hardly ever see. And he has no support around him. Like you said, Danger Taco, it's just so unfortunate that that one falls to the wayside.
It's why pathing and communication, those 0 seconds, is probably the most difficult part to be able to capture, because obviously your first thought is just keep it off the ground, but the other is thinking, okay, well, yeah, I can rotate out and get boosts like I normally would, but I don't really have time to go all the way back or all the way to the side to be able to get boost. I need to be able to get 10, 20 boost and just go from there, and maybe the coordination just wasn't in. Regardless, a nice effort, I would say, going through from CSI. It was a little streaky at times.
Yeah.
They looked really nice in the beginning, and I think Wichita State slowly figured them out. But for a 7th seed going up against one of the most consistent teams in the regular season, I think they can hold their heads high with that effort, and hopefully we'll see them in future semesters or just in other competitions across the collegiate Rocket League landscape.
Yeah, nonetheless, very, very impressive performance right there from CSI, like you said so yourself. And I just, there's nothing more that can be said about them. I mean, honestly, they really played a heck of a series. Their defense was really well, but it was just little minute, I think, beats on the pitch that really separated these two teams. Wichita State, they did a phenomenal job coming back. You saw that they were in a drought for the majority of the series as well. So it was unfortunate, but at the same time, they still got the job done. Not in the prettiest fashion, but still got the job done, Danger Taco.
Yes, and so therefore, if we do see this team in the future, I'm actually fascinated to see if Wichita can be able to pull this one off in maybe a more convincing fashion. I think normally when you see these 1st and 2nd seeds, granted, we talk a lot about the parity of Rocket League, getting a little bit more even across the skill levels, but you'd expect them to be able to clean this one up. I'd be interested to hear, at least within their own heads, how that's going to work out. So I believe we might be able to throw to a break as we do look. Oh, no, actually, no, we are not able to actually get an interview instead. So I guess that is actually done for us here. Whoops, you.
Yeah.
It's a bit of lovely to cast with you, and hopefully we'll be able to do it again sometime soon.
Yeah, hopefully. But looking forward into the semifinals, Wichita State can be waiting for their victor against Concord Esports, RL Maroon, and that's going to be number 6 WSU Esports, RL Crimson, waiting to see who wins that matchup, to see who plays Wichita State. So keep your eyes peeled for that action. But yeah, Danger Taco, it's always been a pleasure with you in the booth. As much knowledge as you have with the CRL Rocket League scene, I love to always hear it, and always be out here on the pitch with you as well. It's just, phenomenal. I love it, man. Thank you guys for having me.
And it's always nice to be able to cast with you as well as Colton in the background, and then also Professor Layton working some admin and then some back-end things. But we got even more lovely people to introduce to the camera. We're going to throw you guys to a break, but then we have Overwatch coming up to Overwatch 2, to be specific, round of 16. It's Florida International, our 6th seed, versus Plymouth State, the 11th, with Septilence and 2 Tryhard Ray within the booth for the cast. So see you soon. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next time for ECAC Rocket League.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ECAC Overwatch 2 Playoffs. We are now in the round of 16. I am Septilins, joined by the Tryhard Ray, and we are jumping into the 6th seed versus the 11th seed, Florida International University versus Plymouth State University. But Ray, before we jump into our matchup tonight, how are you doing, brother? How are you feeling today?
Hey, I'm feeling fantastic. Great to get some playoff action from ECAC. These teams are so talented. Florida Atlantic coming in at the 6th seed, 4-1, going against Plymouth, who they've been kind of on a downward spiral. They started strong and they've lost their last 3, hoping to get back on track with this playoff game.
Yeah, this playoff game is going to be the place to put your money where your mouth is. And unlike some other playoffs we see in the ECAC, Overwatch is going to be a best of 5 and not a best of 7 until the very end of the grand finals themselves. So we are looking at a pretty traditional series as of now. Florida International University being in that 6th seed, it is currently their game to lose and their map to choose. The starting map, as a surprise to nobody, going to be Lijiang Tower. So, Ray, going into that, in a scenario like this, if you are in the position of Plymouth, right, you're the 11th seed, your back's against the wall a little bit, do you go for, you know, some cheese? Do you bring out Symmetra Bastion? Do you go for something you're more comfortable with? Do you run the expected meta? What is the proper play to come out the gates as strong as possible here?
I think it's going to depend what the strengths and weaknesses of your team. Like, for example, if you're a very dive-oriented favored team, I think, you know, outside of Control Center, you can look to play that on Gardens and Night Market and can find a lot of success at it. You might have to change your dive tank. Like maybe you prefer a Diva or a Wrecking Ball versus a Winston on Night Market. But I definitely think there's a lot on the plate here. But if you're a Brawl team, I do think that Sim, that Bastion, those Maze, I think the cheese, Lijiang Tower is just begging you to play those kinds of comps.
100%. This is a map very much built in a scenario where Symmetra gets an incredible amount of value. Junkrat as well, as many people know, my favorite character in the game, can really thrive on Lijiang Tower in all 3 stages. He's one of few characters that can be played on any of them, and it's not that surprising to see him on those stages. But moving into Lijiang Tower, I'm going to be looking at the tank, as you mentioned, if we will be seeing a bit of a slower Brawl comp. Are we going to be seeing the Space Grandpa? Are we going to be seeing a little bit of a rush Brawl situation? And as we see the Junker Queen locked on one side, and it looks like the Rhine on the other, whatever this is, it's going to be close quarters, and it's going to be sloppy.
Yeah, no surprise from either of these teams. They're playing a semblance of a Brawl. One thing I'm curious about, a Plymouth State and a Baptiste on the other side of Florida. So Plymouth needs to get in there and win quickly because you're going to have more heals, more sustain, and immortality to a poor guy.
Pressure already coming out the gate here pretty early on, and Plymouth State creates a bit of space, and they're going to be able to find even more as one has gone down. It's a 2-for-1 trade, though. Florida International's Reinhardt does pick up that opening elimination. The left shift in, looking up for just one more pick to really seal the deal, but Plymouth State will backpedal towards that spawn door and pass the point over to Florida International for the opening cap.
Very well played. There's a lot of pressure being put down on this Reinhardt, but another battle's already going to ensue. The spawners are in.
Spawners are in. Bastion is going to be able to find that elimination onto Flakies, and it's going to be Plymouth State with the numbers. Florida International losing their primary damage dealer into the shape of that Bastion are going to have to really slow things down. They're going to go to Brawl up as long as they can. The May wall out from Neb will be able to catch both the May and the Rhine. Reinhardt going down just shy of 20%. Point flip to Plymouth State. Ultimates from the tanks are pretty locked in here, but does Florida International use this amplification matrix array to open the door for this upcoming engagement?
I definitely think if you want to start gaining a lot of percentage lead, you look to do that. You can't allow Plymouth to continue to push this door. You got to force them back, and that window is going to be a great opportunity to be able to do that.
The Shatter comes out. It's not going to be able to find much, but Ant will still go down. Yver is not going to be far behind either, and Plymouth State losing that numbers advantage just as quickly as they were able to gain it. Amplification Matrix from Yai. She holds on to it a bit longer. Doesn't want to bring that extension to the table unless she finds it necessary, and it won't be quite yet. All things considered, we're seeing a low and slow play style that is working pretty well for Florida International. Even better as that Rampage is only going to be able to find 2 eliminations, or 2 even hits. It's going to turn into 2 eliminations.
Yeah, and now the Bastion artillery strike coming out as Plymouth State now has the numbers, and they're going to just clean up, flip this point, and that's the thing. They're doing a great job of regrouping extremely quickly, and they're playing with that speed that I mentioned that they gotta be playing with to throw Florida off.
Yeah, definitely playing with that speed is going to be very beneficial to keep Florida International on their toes. We've got another point flip back in favor of Plymouth. They're barely able to take the lead. A blizzard available on both sides, but the Kitsune rush from Remember could be huge here in helping the team get away. The Venn diagram, is going to be able to make a little bit of space. Qatar finding Ant early on. I believe that's the third fight we've seen Ant become. That first elimination, losing the tank, makes it very difficult for the rest of the team to stay in the forefront, to stay in the fray, and they're not going to be able to do so quite yet today. The action continues to move in the fray of Plymouth State, running away from that spawn point today. Florida International, 50% on the board, looking for that opening, able to find it. Ryan goes in a bit too deep. The wall comes up, barely able to keep that Junker Queen alive, but Neb, Steel, and Amp aren't as lucky.
Yeah, one thing I've been extremely impressed with on both sides with Guitar and Nebsteel are these walls that they've both been coming out with, doing a great job of separating out key members of this team. And look at that, Guitar finds the headshot onto Yver, just doing great jobs on these maze.
Yeah, Guitar and Flaky is able to find a couple of exit frags here, and it's really going to end the fight before it even gets the chance to begin. Florida International hitting that 75% mark in just a moment here, which is what we like to call that last fight territory scenario. Florida International feeling confident about their chances if they can prevent Plymouth from touching. Ant misses the beat. The artillery strike comes out. The shatters insult to injury. Not able to find any stuns. Great to a wonderfully timed Suzu, but the Suzu's only going to cause a delay of the inevitable. No action happening quite yet on either side, and it looks like Florida International will be able to snake out this first stage victory.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be able to touch with all the pressure that Florida International is able to apply, and that is going to be all she wrote. I mean, once Florida was able to dig their heels in, they're able to play aggressively at this door with their ultimates, and they just continue to cycle them perfectly. But I think another key to this was them getting early picks while Plymouth was trying to come back. When it was back and forth and the teams were going at it, they weren't finding those picks, and Plymouth was able to take advantage of the speed. But you find those picks while they're regrouping, and they're not able to do that.
Yeah, looking for those groups, or the regroups, and unfortunately Plymouth never really stayed in spawn long enough for all 5 of them to be alive to find that opening engagement, and it worked pretty aggressively against them. A stage that started incredibly close falls apart pretty quickly for Plymouth State, and as we move into a new one here, Lijiang Gardens, Florida International Symmetra swap cannot go overlooked.
Yeah, one thing I'm very, very curious about, I mean, they do swap over to the Genji, so we're going dive for Plymouth State with the Doomfist, but the curiosity is the Ana and then the Cassie to go along with it. Cassidy feels very out of place in a dive composition.
Yeah, Cassidy started off as the Ash, which fit maybe just a little bit better, but not the best overall, and unfortunately Plymouth State not able to get much with that opening. Ant is going to be charged up, has a great punch into the back line, and yeah, will be the first one to bite that bullet. Guitar not far behind, and Plymouth State's Doomfist swap is already paying off somewhat well. A strong performance is exactly what this team needs to be looking for, and they're able to find one, at least for the opening fight of Stage 2 of Lijiang Tower.
That's not what you want if you're Florida International. You can't just sit there like a sitting duck and let this dive pick you apart. If you're going to continue to play this Reinhardt composition, you got to be aggressive and get on top of these less mobile characters. You need to speed and get on top of Ant and Nebsteel, who are playing that Ana and that Cassidy, who, if you get on top of them, they don't have much of an escape route.
Speaking of Nebsteel, bit of a technical difficulty there is going to take Neb out of the game. It looks like we had a disconnect of some variety, so that is going to give us a little bit more time to discuss the opportunities and the possibilities we're really getting the chance to see so far. The Doomfist working a heck of a lot better there on the on Gardens than we were able to see it anywhere else, and we weren't really able to see it yet because it doesn't get that same thrive against a Reinhardt in Control Center. So value's been made. The space is being boxed in a little bit, but it seems like the value is there through and through, Ray. I'm hoping that they're able to continue that, especially now they've lost a lot of free ult charge due to the mislocation of their disconnected Nebsteel.
Yeah, this is where things also get difficult for the Reinhardt composition, because now the dive is able to scout you out and plan out more effective dives. That first fight's kind of a free-for-all, everyone jostling for positioning, and it's not as easy to coordinate those dives. But now they're in that defensive attacking position to be able to search you out, coordinate it, and it's just going to make pushing in on this Reinhardt composition that much more difficult.
Yeah, pushing into the Reinhardt with the Doomfist is something that could be a little bit valuable, but if you're missing a DPS, if you're losing that ult charge, if you're losing a lot of the utility you were originally bringing to the table, that's where things are going to fall a little bit short at the end of the day, and it looks like that is what they're going to be looking at, unless Nebsteel can maybe figure out, you know, a couple of ways to make it work, a couple of ways to get back into the fray and emerge victorious. But I'm really just trying to keep an eye out here. I'm trying to remember what else we were seeing. We were seeing an Ana in the back line. I believe it was Amp on the Ana from the side of Plymouth State, which is going to work very well with a Doomfist. Could have worked with a Cassidy, but again, currently no Cassidy due to a disconnect. Florida International, they themselves are bringing out a more traditional composition. We saw a Symmetra, but I mean, all I really saw, at least, was the Symmetra on the team, right? I didn't see Sim in the kill feed. I didn't see a TP coming in early to give that point control, because the second they got into point, they got punched right back out of it, and Florida International immediately had to go back to the drawing board. I think playing that Symmetra after you lose point is very, very difficult to do and can often regard itself into a sunken cost fallacy.
I couldn't agree more, especially going up against more of a dive composition. It's harder for Symmetra to build up that beam and find the value, especially when Neb Steel and the Ana, they're playing so far back, so you can't, even with the less mobile targets, you're not able to build up that beam because they're just doing a great job playing the positioning. Again, like I said, it's on the Florida's side to get aggressive. You have a Lucio, you can speed on top of the Ana, on top of the Cassidy, and you can wipe them out very quickly if you're coordinated. And it's almost kind of like when you're going against Wrecking Ball compositions, and you just realize the Wrecking Ball's a nuisance and he's so chunky that you can't kill him. Just ignore him and go after the rest of the team. Ignore the Doomfist.
Yeah, just ignoring the Doomfist is something that can work very well, and like you said, it kind of lends itself back to that concept of playing against a Wrecking Ball, or even occasionally like a Roadhog. It's like, sometimes just don't look at them, because they're not able to do enough if you can go through them. But I think Ant did such a good job in that opening engagement, hitting the proper angle, hitting a supercharged punch that knocked, I think, 4 people into a knockback, turned it into at least 2 eliminations, and really began to barrel things down against FIU. Moving into this matchup further on, I will be looking toward Plymouth State a little bit to just see if the Doom continues to work, right? It's something that, okay, you got one play, you got one opening, that's great, but playing kind of the defense of control where you're in charge of the point, playing Doomfist can be difficult if you're not able to get the charge up punches, if you're not able to get the environmental kills. It's a double-edged sword for sure, and I'm hoping Ant is able to keep that energy brought to the table a little consistently, bring it out early, try to cancel out that Ryan as consistently as they can.
Yeah, it's going to be, especially with Florida, the way they push in. One of the favorite ways, especially for a Reinhardt to push in, because you're trying to avoid the bridge, because that's where you just get easy punch offs the edge. If you go White Room, the problem is the Doomfist can get a really good angle, kind of like we saw in the opening, where they pushed him back into the wall. But if you get around the corner that much more, you can get them off the edge. So you got to be very careful about playing your angles against this Doomfist.
Yeah, playing the angles is going to be the name of the game one way or another. And while we continue to kind of check in on these tech issues, try to get a little bit more information on when this reconnect will be happening, I think it just leaves the opportunity for a lot of hypothesis, right? We saw a couple of weird plays there. We saw the Cassidy, which we thought was really interesting. It was going to be maybe an Ashe before that, which even she doesn't really fit super well here on this Garden. So I'm wondering if there is going to be a bit of opportunity to try something, you know, a third option perhaps going into it versus the Cassidy, because that was the first thing we noticed, right? Is okay, good team comp, but also Cassidy is here. And that felt weird even in the moment, so hopefully they're able to make a change, relogging, maybe bringing a better agent to the table, a better hero into the mix-up.
As we are now back in the action, and like we mentioned, because they lost Neb Steel, this has a window of opportunity for Florida to get aggressive and push in.
Already we see a great shot onto Uber, but it's going to be able to stay up due to the deflect and the healing from Amp. Ant is critical condition. Moving later into the site, it should be a pretty easy cap for Florida International, especially now that they've taken Amp out of the equation. Meteor Strike goes up, and what goes up must come down. Yeah, taken out by the Genji there in the backline. An overextension will cost them their life, though. Turns into a 1-1 trade, and Ant now up full charge, 70% to the Nano. If Amp can return fast enough, this could be a pretty easy fight flip for Plymouth State. Ant really overstaying their welcome, though, barely staying alive, and still somehow Plymouth State able to bury these bullets into the bodies of Florida International to give themselves an opportunity to still win what should have been a guaranteed loss fight.
And in the meantime, they force out the Immortality Field, and they're able to clean everyone up. Well played by Ant to continue to disrupt and keep damage on the side of Florida International, buy time for their team to get back, and then they're able to take advantage. So, I mean, you would think in that situation, getting out on that Doomfist was key, but staying in ends up working out great for them.
Meteor Strike once again available for Ant, which that in itself is insane. Using that last fight, having another one locked and loaded. Yai buried in the back line once more. Rember finds a 2K. Ant turns it into a 5 with the help of that Genji. A complete and total team kill from Plymouth State. Maybe stage 1 wasn't their favorite, but they are just getting warmed up here on Lijiang Gardens. We are going to night market almost guaranteed, unless Florida International can make some big changes, and big changes they've certainly made.
Yeah, we see Florida International. Jin is going over to that Winston. So it's going to be a nail in the side of Yver and Nebsteel. Winston can do a great job of isolating with that bubble. So you got to be careful if you're Plymouth State. Keep an eye out for Jin.
Yeah, keeping an eye out for Jin on the Winston here, but doesn't have a lot of support. The beat drop is going to be Ajax, and Drurin can't find that opening. Blakey's and Guitar are going to be able to get a couple of picks, but I'm afraid it may be too little too late. No healing online, 23 HP, recall nowhere to be found, and Ant with 51 of their own, just hiding in the back. There's a nano boost to boot, keeping the energy up and running. Ant goes in, Super Punch is going to be charged, but not long enough to get that utilization. Florida International trying to bring things close. Jin picks up another one, but Rember has been so aggressive on the side of Plymouth State. Can't do it themselves. Chooses to hold on to that Kitsune rush a bit longer.
I think that's going to be the smart decision. You're going to be coming back with 4 ultimates in your back pocket.
Yep.
Florida had to use so much to keep themselves in this fight. All they're going to be hoping for is Jin Hyuk being able to build up to this primal rage and be able to stall out.
Looking for the stall is going to be the name of the game, and that primal rage is going to be the opening gate to do it. Ant goes up with a meteor strike, but Jin cannot find the primal rage fast enough. One tank missing. The Bastion booted into the backline. The mini not there to keep him alive. And I love the redirect we're seeing here. Flaky's completely ignoring Ant, or trying to, until Ant overextends, and they certainly will do just that. 60% now going to be boxed out as Plymouth State 1-for-1 trades. The eye last one standing will be dismissed. A pulse bomb is coming out from Guitar, and it won't be able to find anything. Jin takes the over out of the matchup, and Florida International by the skin of their teeth here, clawing to stay alive in this matchup.
Yeah, this Winston has been trouble for Yver on this Genji. You're going to be able to come into this fight, and you will have the blade available. And that's the win condition. Final fight territory for both of these teams, as Florida International is looking to make a miraculous comeback on Gardens.
Here we go. Primal Rage comes out once again in Plymouth State. They want to win this one. A blade in the back line comes out early, but it's already going to be a 2-for-2 trade. The tank is missing, but now the Brigida hasn't even gotten the chance to appear in the fight. Amp has fallen as well, and even the Genji can't be there long enough to save the day. Florida International letting it get close, but deciding they are going to call when this matchup comes to a close. Rember is dismissed by Flakies, and Ant returns to the fight once more. My goodness, everybody refusing to stop spawning. Flakies turns it into a 2K, looking for the third, and with the help of Georan, will be able to pick up just that. Florida International, barely minutes into an overtime, are going to be able to emerge victorious with our first map, Lijiang Tower.
And that was the big key, is finally getting off that Reinhardt composition, was just getting punched around left and right by that Doomfist. You're able to play a dive composition of your own on the Winston, and because they were playing such squishy characters with the Genji and the Cassidy, Winston and Jin, they're just able to feast, and feast they did, as they're able to turn around Gardens and take the first map.
Yeah, I mean, just having a field day there. And I know that our next map is going to be hybrid of that variety. And I don't know if it is loser gets to pick the map or if it's going to be a preset. But going into hybrid, I mean, there is opportunity to play Rhine just as much as there isn't, right? We could be seeing a hybrid map like King's Row, where Rhine is incredibly viable. Or we could be seeing something like Numbani, where Rhine is statistically the worst tank to play on that map post first point. So there is a lot of opportunity here for Plymouth State if they want to find a map they're comfortable on, that Ant can do well. I think the answer is a no-brainer. I think it's Numbani, but if they want to try something different, maybe they don't want to play the Doomfist, looking at a map like Midtown could be beneficial as well.
Yeah, I agree. Based on how well they looked on that Doomfist, Numbani has to be the pick, but they did get countered pretty hard by the Winston once Florida swapped to it, and they could just be like, look, Numbani's also a great Winston map. We'll just play Winston. So that's going to be the question is, do you feel confident coming to Numbani where you know they're just going to play the Winston back at your Doomfist? Do you feel confident in your Doomfist composition going up against their Winston? Because that was quite the comeback they had on Gardens.
Yeah. I mean, without a doubt, we saw a very close matchup there on Gardens, and we saw Jin bring out a beautiful performance on that Winston. As you mentioned, if Numbani isn't, if Doomfist isn't the best tank for Numbani, who is? It probably is Winston, Ray. You raise a very powerful point there that it could be difficult to play that Doom, to play that Winston. So maybe let's scrap the whole idea. Maybe let's go for something else. And it looks like they are going to be doing just that. The map, one of my personal favorites in the game, and Reinhardt's the best map without a doubt, King's Row. So, I mean, this is going to be a difficult one to walk into because Jin was doing a very good job on that Reinhardt.
Yeah, I'm actually
I guess until he wasn't, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited to see how this goes because when we did get the Brawl Map Control Center, we saw Plymouth pull out the Junker Queen, and it was very back and forth for a while until Florida was finally able to dig in their heels. So I think the opportunity to play the Junker Queen on this map is also going to be on the table, and they had some great success with it. Maybe they can carry that over, and maybe that's why they're picking a map like King's Row.
Yeah, maybe King's Row is something where they're going to be trying to get a little bit more value out of something like a Junker Queen. I think she can work very well, but I think Jin, as I mentioned, very comfortable on the Rhine, and I think it is difficult to run Queen into Rhine unless you've got somebody like Amp on the Ana, who is just dumping as many heals into their tank as they possibly could before going down. So there's benefit and there's value to playing the Junker Queen. Maybe trying to answer out the Rhine could be beneficial, but also going for something like Sigma, or very soon, but not quite yet, Maga as well is a great Reinhardt counter. So this is going to be a map where Rhine used to rule, but Sigma coming into play, and Maga, he's not going to be far behind. Maybe no Reinhardt here. That would definitely be surprising.
Yeah, that would be extremely surprising. We do know what Florida International is going to go with, and they are going to play this Sigma Mei Bastion. This is the very popular competition that popped up in Overwatch League for the Grand Finals. As Plymouth is going to come out on this Winston. I'm very worried for them going into, I mean, yeah.
Ray, why would you possibly be worried? But what could possibly go wrong? Ant immediately walks out. And I do want to call the role swap as well. Ant on the Soldier 76. Yever is going to be on that Winston as well. Am I going to pronounce that name differently every time I say it? Probably. Get used to it. Amp is going to be eliminated by Plymouth State as well, or on Plymouth State. So Florida International find themselves with a huge advantage, burning half a minute off the clock already. That is the exact kind of numbers they're looking for to get the early eliminations, to get the early openings. And Plymouth State, they are just getting bodied out in their own spawn. A rotation from Ant onto the high ground buys a little bit of space, but not the space you're really looking for. You got to hold further into this point with a beautiful double headshot onto Jin. The door has been busted wide open for the side of Plymouth State.
You are down Soldier 76 for Ant. You find the Junker Queen that's just going to buy so much time for Jin to be able to get back on this Sigma. And that's just the patience from Florida. Yes, you lose your Sigma, but you're able to back around that corner, find your cover, and Flakies is able to get into that configuration turret for and do all that damage.
Ooh, speaking of damage, Ant now on the Junkrat doesn't even get to bring any of their own damage to the table because Flakies has already found that opening, has created that necessary space to emerge victorious, and is trying to get the value to do just that. Already, Flakies has an artillery strike locked and loaded. We've got an amplification matrix from Yai as well, who is a very talented Baptiste, may I say. And here's the first opportunity, for me at least, to see this new Roadhog in action, an immediate hook, but that Pig's Pen is not going to be down for the catch. Space is being made, the gates are being opened, and the Kitsune rush from Rember, a beautiful hook into the back line, but Flakies, the double kill with the spray through the amplification matrix is going to keep Florida International in the mix-up, large and in charge. This team feeling good. They burned half the time bank, only 2 minutes left here on the clock, and Plymouth State, even the wild swaps of Roadhog and Junkrat, can't make the necessary space.
Yeah, the Roadhog definitely stronger with the changes, but to me, it wasn't enough to make them super viable.
100%.
They're just relying heavily on catching someone off guard, and this accretion rock is just so bad against the Roadhog.
Oh, beautiful from Plymouth, actually not from Plymouth State, beautiful from Ant. I mean, just goes in with a Riptire, all of Florida International there to stare it down on its way into the matchup. Nobody shoots at it. It is a wide open shot for Ant. Drops a 3K, and Florida International have to pass over the point because of it. Something that was so dominant in their favor gets swapped, immediately pushed against them because Plymouth State just found the opening they needed with one Riptire.
Just incredible plays. I mean, that's all it takes sometimes is someone coming through big with a big play and a big ultimate, and that's the positive momentum Plymouth is going to need. And they come into this fight, they're going to have a blizzard, but Florida has so much to work with.
And I mean, I've learned the hard way that a 4-man Riptire can make or break a King's Row. Let me tell you, Ray, I've seen it firsthand. Flakies is going to find a great elimination with that artillery strike, but giving their life to do so really takes away from the necessary value. Florida International, they're stalling out the cart a bit more, and Guitars May has been pivotal in doing that, able to find 3 eliminations in the mix-up. And if Florida International can play close, if they can force the arch, they can feel a lot better about their chances of stalling things out early on here. But if Plymouth State begins to approach the bar, that second corner, that's where things get a little worrisome.
Yeah, unfortunate for Jiren, had a slight mistake. Used the Sound Bear, was unable to get Jin in it, so they lost the Sigma. So it's forcing them to have to back out. They have to forfeit the archway, and now they're going to have to take the next fight at this bookstore corner.
Meteor strike up, and it must come back down. A beautiful Maywall keeps the team alive with a Gravitic Flux kind of in the back pocket of Jin here. I expect it to be coming out early in this engagement and already biting the bullet. Neb going to be biting the rocks of the streets of King's Row, and it looks like that Doomfist will be joining them back in spawn. Maybe a Mercy. If these Gravitic Orbs can find purchase, they will not do so. And that pressure continues to work out. Remember, last member standing. Amp will take them down, and that Amp will be taken down. That is a team kill in favor of Florida International. We're back to those 2 minutes.
Yeah, unfortunate for Plymouth State. They've been playing a lot of tanks that are super susceptible and weak to the Secretion Rock, the Roadhog, and the Doomfist. Doomfist can do a great job of avoiding it, but when you're in just a long choke like this second point can be for King's Row, it's tough to avoid that accretion.
Well, it's like a nuke accretion, and then all of a sudden you've got Flaky staring you down in artillery form, just completely demolishing the Doomfist. Ant looking for an elimination, goes deep into the back line, goes for the fake, the wall ride in, accretion doesn't find purchase, and Jin will go down. Florida International losing their tank makes this a difficult matchup to emerge victorious on. Yai gets an elimination out the gate, almost a bit of insult to injury as she's trying to level the playing field, but the numbers are up. The resurrection is there. The Kitsune rush is answered by a May Blizzard, and the stall tactics will emerge victorious for just a couple of moments. Plymouth State stalled in their tracks, but not nearly long enough to slow this team down. Ant finds 2, looking for a third, but the Lucio not slippery enough to get away from Amp. A bit of supportal combat to win Plymouth a pivotal fight and possibly the second point.
Oh, that is definitely the second point given, which was crucial for Ant to come in and find those picks when he did, because the respawners were coming in for Florida and they were going to be able to waste a lot of time off this clock. 2.5 minutes to try and get this point across the line. I think it's going to be pivotal for Plymouth to finish this with time, ideally over a minute, but having some time on the clock, because I know Florida's going to be ready to jump out to a quick attack.
The Reinhardt swap from Plymouth here is going to be late, but Ryan gets a lot of value here, especially on the attack, can create the necessary space, can get the incredible value and deal a lot of damage, but not as much as a Gravitic Flux. We see the highest of noons come out, but Neb only able to find 1 as the Flux artillery strike from Florida International stops this team dead in their tracks. The space has been made, the value has been created, and it is not working nearly as well as Florida International may have anticipated. They only buy themselves another 30-ish seconds, but with less than 2 minutes on the clock, Plymouth State, if they're finishing this map at all, are finishing it in overtime. Let's see if Florida International can continue the aggression they're bringing to the table.
Both teams pulling out DPS we have not seen yet in this series. Guitar is on the Sojourn, and Neb still has pulled out the Ash as Javert goes down, but Ant finds one with the tire.
Space has been made as Ant takes Flakies out of the way, and Plymouth State looking for an opportunity to get into the mix-up. Ant takes an aggressive high ground, sneaks their way through the mix. But still, no purchases yet. Amp can't get in, has to go right back out to keep the team alive. Jin drops the shield, eats a fire strike for their efforts with only a beat drop to their name. They might have to use it just to try and survive this amplification matrix. No, Georan gonna sit on it a little bit longer. Nebsteel, desperate to play this Ash, has locked it in a few times and finally gets the chance to do so. A minute here on the clock. This is a now or never fight for Florida International. If they're not gonna win it, they need to see that timer hit 0, and if they are, they've set their own win condition. 2 players down, a third joins the fray, and now it's gonna be a 5v1. Let's make it a 5v none as Rember joins the team in a team kill back in spawn. 40 seconds left, 0 ultimates for Plymouth State.
Yes, this essentially is going to be the last fight. Making some swaps, Amp going over to the Ana, Nebsteel going over to the Bastion. But look at this war chest Florida has built up to. Every single ultimate available to them. And because of the swaps, Plymouth is completely dry. You're going to have a shatter, and that is it.
That shatter could be huge if Plymouth could get in close enough to use it, but it's an Ant Matrix is there to scare them away from the matchup. It makes a lot of sense that they're not going to be able to use that ult in time if they can even farm it before this timer hits 0. The Suzu keeps the Bastion alive just long enough for the Railgun to dismantle him and send the scraps to the yard, and an Amp will go down. Rember, gonna bite that bullet as well. I believe that is a stop for Florida International. That is nearly all 3 points for Plymouth State. The win condition has been set here, Ray, and it is not an easy one to achieve.
Yeah, for Plymouth, it's to me in a 5-map series, or first to 3, it is pivotal to get this map win for Plymouth. Going down 2-0, where you put yourself in a position where you have to reverse sweep, they don't come easy in Overwatch. It takes a lot of mental fortitude. It takes, you having to come up with an answer for Florida and then hoping that Florida can't find an answer to your answer. So it's of the utmost importance for Plymouth to even the series right now. As you mentioned, Florida has that win condition set.
Florida International, I'm really looking forward to seeing what their team comp may be in a scenario like this. They're on the attack now, so they may go for what I always call the King's Row Widow, right? This is the greatest place to kind of bust it out, to stay in spawn, look for a headshot. If you find one, that's great. If you don't, hey, that's great. You tried, and you can swap onto something else. But Plymouth State bringing a Diva out on the defense, this could be really dangerous because we've seen Florida International lock in the May before, and if they do so again, or if they go for the counter swap, then I think this Diva is going to have a really difficult time getting in, but maybe she's just there to create chaos and pull away focus from Ant, who just needs to try and hit those Hanzo headshots, which, as we all know, you don't have to try very hard to get a headshot with Hanzo. Again,
to me, this is another tank extremely susceptible to these accretion rocks.
I agree.
That Jin's going to have available. And then, if you get the accretion under the Diva, Flakes is just going to stare them down and get you out of that mech immediately. The tank matchups that they're taking are just a little baffling.
Yeah, the tank matchups have been interesting, to say the very least here, Ray. And Ant going for a headshot off the corner there, looks for a Storm Arrow and not able to get that mix up down to 10 HP. Wide swings the corner and has to duck back into the team. I think we're going to be seeing this Diva struggle quite a bit, as you mentioned, because the accretion does find that hit. Qatar's already on the May, as I predicted. These are a nightmare for a character like this May, and it's exactly what I was afraid of. Nebsteel already gone. Remember, uses the Suzu. It is not going to be enough to keep the team alive. Both supports are missing. Qatar gets traded for a 4-for-1 trade. You'll take that any day of the week. Diva, last member standing. Boosters get you nowhere, and all of a sudden, Plymouth State obliterated 2 full minutes earlier than we saw Plymouth State take this first point. Florida International setting a very strong precedent on the attack.
Yeah, the big thing here for Plymouth is making sure you don't get picked. You can't afford to have people going to the longer spawns. Okay, you're going to get the Diva back just in time to save Nebsteel, because that was looking like some dangerous shots you were taking.
Ant tries to find that dynamite, but a great wall from Qatar will keep that Lucio alive. And Ray, unfortunately, the prediction was correct. They were able to keep the Echo alive a little bit more, but Defense Matrix only lasts so long, and Nebsteel will go down, forcing a 5v4. A flank in the backline could be huge, or a pick onto Georan makes this a lot easier to work with, and I think Plymouth State is more than aware of that. An Ashe deep in the back line forces out an Immortality field as well. It's not even just an Ashe, it's an Ashe Mercy here on the high ground. This is exactly what this team needs to rip apart the insides of Florida International. Nobody can get to the high ground, so they just kind of have to watch in terror as this Ashe continues to rain justice from above them.
Yeah, exactly. So very well played from the side of Plymouth. The Flakies and things are turning around. They cannot access this high ground.
Ant finally goes down, but there's a resurrection in the pocket. Drops a blizzard here that I think is going to find no one. The immortality frame should keep Ant alive long enough to get out of the cold, and that is a blizzard that I think Florida International is absolutely going to want back. The bright side here, Ray, is that they did keep themselves in a comfortable position. They do have 4 minutes left on the clock, so maybe that fight wasn't theirs, but they've got a full time bank's worth to try and answer back somewhere else.
Yeah, they are still going to have 4 ultimates to be able to commit to this fight, while Plymouth used a lot to be able to continue this aggressive hold. So you have that going for you. Now they're going to rotate to the high ground. This is going to be a smart decision. You have to take this time and get them off this high ground.
Yeah, having a Lucio should be pretty beneficial here with the speed boost across these opening spots, these more vulnerable opportunities, just to get Ant off the high ground, as you mentioned, because this player has been nothing short of lethal so far. The dynamite will get eaten there. Ant will go down. Resurrection, I believe, is online, but it looks like Amp is more than aware that they do not need to go for a rush down like that. The Mercy is picked up. They find the elimination onto Rember and Amp, not far behind. Florida International, they bide their time. They go a little bit low and slow, but it works out well, and The cart can now find a little bit of movement. Neb just looking for some ult charge on their way out the door. Will have that overclock for their efforts in the next engagement.
I was going to say that was a big mistake from Florida. They had basically won the fight and didn't send anyone to go touch the point. They could have gotten a lot more distance. But getting that late pick onto Nebsteel is going to be a big player here. But Plymouth comes back with so many ultimates to be able to use.
A lot of ultimates on the table. Amplification Matrix here is going to be answered out by a Kitsune, but Rember gives their life for the cause, and that is not exactly a scenario that they want to be staring into. Lakey's is going to get a bit of value here, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to be worthwhile. The bomb finds two, opens up the door for Plymouth State once more, and just when you think Florida International has this second point cap guaranteed, they instead find themselves looking Plymouth State at a victory on this second map if they can stall out for just 2.5 more minutes, which is much easier said than done.
I think if you're Plymouth, you're in a really good spot. Ant's able to find the pick onto Yai. 3 ultimates to be able to continue to defend here as Florida has to get value out of this Blizzard. We talked last time that they wanted their Blizzard back. Now they have it. Can they take advantage?
They're looking for the advantage state if they can find it, Ray, like you said. And Florida International, they want to go in with this Blizzard, just try to find a little bit of aggression. Hopefully this Blizzard is a wee bit more successful than the previous. Accretion does stall out the Diva for just a bit, but it bides her the necessary time to relocate. There's an overclock. There's the Bob. So already Plymouth State committing both DPS ultimates, and Flaky still almost finds a pick before nearly going down. Ant will lose their Bob. Nebsteel's overclock is a silent ultimate, and the immortality field from Yai is not going to find much more value for the team of Florida International. Flaky's a personal pick onto Amp, and the space has been made once more. Florida International are moving the card. This should be a second point cap. I'd be surprised if it wasn't.
I think Plymouth is doing the smart thing too. Backing out, you're going to be able to regroup and take another fight here as long as you don't allow anyone else to get picked. You're still facing down the barrel of this Blizzard from Qatar.
Yeah. Oh, Flaky's going for that tactical spray and pray strategy. The Blizzard from Guitar is going to be just enough, I presume, to get this team the point cap they're looking for. Yai forced off the high ground as Rember getting a bit of mortal or supportal combat into the mix. Rember will go down for their efforts as Jin finds that spray. Guitar takes Nebsteel out of the way, and with 2.5 minutes left here on map 2, Kings Row, Florida International looking to set their own win condition and walk away victorious.
Because now we see full sale swaps coming out from Plymouth. Uber's going to go over to the Doomfist. They're going to have Nebsteel play the Torbjorn, and they'll have Ant continue to play this Ashe. They're only going to have a Kitsune Rush to work with, so this is where things get dangerous for Plymouth State as Florida is pushing.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Doomfist swap here, but I think it is just going to a bit of a comfortability pick. The Accretion takes him up, the Susu keeps him down, but there's that artillery strike once more. Rember cannot Susu themselves away from enough in the mix-up. Bob already from Ant, a second one, and it looks like it is going to be somewhat valuable. Jin falls off the map in a critical moment. The Bob is missing, but the space has been made, especially as Flaky's goes down. The damage boost on Ant keeps the damage up and running with 90 seconds left. I'd love to see Florida International just tuck their tail, get back to spawn, and go for a reassessment, because right now, Plymouth State, they've just got exactly what they need. Florida International needs to come in as a full 5 in this next mix-up.
I couldn't agree more. You have an ability here if you're Florida, while Plymouth is still trying to regain control of their ult economy from all the swaps they had to make. You might be able to use this sound barrier aggressively and look to just win a quick fight, because you just have to win one quick fight and you're going to take a 2-0 lead.
2-0 lead could be huge, but a Molten Core from Nebsteel is going to try to answer out just that. Wants to make it a 1-1 on the series. Meteor Strike goes up. It will be booped away. No eliminations except for Nebsteel picking up Guitar. 50 seconds left. Accretion onto Yver, but it will not be enough to take the Doomfist out of the equation. An overextension goes deep in the back line, but the healing is there, and Yver will stay alive. Yai has been so good with these amp matrices, but you've got one more opportunity to use it here on Kings Row. The ultimate's in favor of Florida International. So are the stocks here, as it's going to be a 5v3 in favor of FIU. Plymouth State looking for a bit of an opening. They've got the respawn advantage, but if Florida International can get this card wheeling and dealing into the final opening slot, that could be exactly what they need. The Amatrix is here, the Blizzard to boot. Nearly every ultimate under the sun is available. Artillery Strike comes out early. There's the Blizzard, and that's every elimination they could possibly find. It's a 5K. It's a second map victory, and it's another close one, but it's still FIU emerging victorious.
Very impressive coming out from FIU. When things got tough and the rubber needed to meet the road, they were able to come through with the goods. And I think it was just a little bit of an overstaying of your welcome if you're Plymouth State.
Sure.
They pushed that spawn and tried to find these picks, but you needed to just back up and play the fight. You knew the staggering ult advantage Florida was going to have in that fight, and to allow them to just get 2 free picks like that without having to commit anything was just absolutely what you did not need.
Yeah. And I think there's something that a lot of people don't consider when they're playing this game, right? Is sometimes the proper play is, okay, yeah, we overextend, we push into their spawn, we force them to readjust or relocate, whatever it may be. But a lot of people forget, if we're getting ult charge off of them, they are definitely also getting ult charge off of us. And it's something that can kind of tip the scales a little bit, like we saw for FIU in that circumstance of just, let's just wait, farm our ults, go into the last fight with basically 5 ultimates and storm through the opposing team. And that's exactly what they were able to do to find that second map, to emerge victorious, and now put themselves on series point.
Couldn't agree with you more, as Florida has just been situationally the better team. I mean, you can see why they're sitting at the 6th seed, only 1 loss on the season. Question is, can Plymouth find an answer and come back? I mean, the thing that has been great about Florida is they have been great with multiple compositions. We saw the Reinhardt from them. We've seen the Winston. We've seen the Sigma. So we know there's layers to this team. So Plymouth State, maybe you come up with a new composition, but Florida has shown a ability to adapt.
Yeah, and speaking of adaptation, that all comes off the back of Jin, right? I mean, this powerhouse tank player that we've been seeing from FIU today doing a great job. 47 eliminations, 17,000 damage, 5 ultimates, and 18 final blows. Looking very good so far in that postgame. Now, production, is that just Kings Row? Or is that everything? That's just Kings Row. Okay, got the confirmation. I thought those numbers were so high. I had to check if that was 1 map or 2 maps. But, I mean, it just goes to show how powerful Jin has been in this matchup so far. That FIU sitting at nearly a 50 bomb in just 1 map, completely off the back of this tank. And as we go into our next map, I'm really looking forward to seeing, is it going to be a new tank? Are we going to be seeing a 4th option? Or now that we've seen the 3 primaries going into Route 66, Ray, what tanks do we think we're looking at?
I can't wait to figure that out, but we do have a swap coming in for Florida. Jin Hill is going to the bench, and Daniel Plays comes in for this 3rd map. So that's spicy. I need to see what this new tank, what Daniel plays. What do you play?
Yeah, this is interesting, Ray. What a time. We spend this time talking about, oh my goodness, Jin has been so powerful, has been so strong, has been such a great leader for the team. And they say, all right, get on the bench. Get out of here, kid. You crazy kid. Get out of here. And now Daniel Plays coming into the matchup. It's not something I would have anticipated, swapping out a power player like this. So this does kind of give me an immediate inkling of, like, maybe Daniel is a blank specialist, right? What's a tank we haven't seen yet that maybe Daniel is very talented with. Going into Route 66, though, my initial kickups here are Orisa or maybe Diva. Those are kind of the 2 that are locked in my head for the time. So I'm wondering if that's what Daniel's going to do, or maybe Jin is just exhausted from deadlifting the team 2 maps in a row. I really do not know, but there's a lot of versatility and now a lot of opportunity for Plymouth State as well, as the roster has been rolled over for FIU.
You are definitely right there. I mean, we've been given the full stats from Kings Row. And I'm sorry, I just have to mention this. Yai, 25k healing on Baptiste. That is disgusting.
She's crazy on the BAP. I saw it back on Li Jiang. I saw the insta-lock on Kings Row, and I was like, okay, that's her character. She knows what she's doing, because the Baptiste, he's a tough character to play, but 25k heals, keeping the team alive. We're looking at 6k damage as well. Maybe that's my only complaint. Maybe a wee bit more damage could be good, but overall, I mean, you can't complain when you're staring 28 eliminations and 25,000 healing in the face. I mean, yeah, she's doing everything she possibly can, and I think it's a huge part of the reason that FIU continues to be successful. I mean, especially the amp matrices. I've been so vocal about that.
Being able to average 4 per attack and defense, that is so valuable to a team who takes advantage of them. We saw one of the reasons why they were able to hold that point B for so long, or the point A on their defense, was Amp Matrix came out, gets 3 kills with the Bastion grenade. It was insane.
Yeah, and one of the supports does tend to be the IGL for teams pretty often, right? It's either your main support or it's your tank, and that may be Yai as well, because the timing on these Ant Matrixes have been very powerful, because it was Ant Matrix right into that Bastion ult fire, right into a 3K with the bomb. Like, the timing was immediate. There was no reaction time available for Plymouth because of how quickly those combos were falling into attrition. So I'm wondering if Yai isn't the IGL. She's definitely a power player on the team. She's one of the loudest voices in the roster, because they are definitely playing well off the back of this Baptiste. And Ro16, another map that works very well for the BAP. So I think this could be a really beneficial situation for FIU to be in. But of course, it all trickles back down to that little flow chart of what the heck is the tank going to be?
Yeah, I'm very excited coming into Route 66. I do think I've seen a lot of contenders Overwatch play. We've seen Sigma is always going to be a very safe pick on a map like this. A lot of, Big Earls is a great spot to be able to hold defensively. You have the Cliffs to be able to hold on. And we saw that Florida International is very good at those Sigma compositions. The question is, from what we've seen from Plymouth, what do they look to come out from? And of course, the wrinkle of things, if Daniel plays coming in on the tank, what are they going to look to play? It's just so many interesting little tidbits coming in to what could be our final map of the series.
This very likely could be the final map of the series if Florida International keeps the energy moving the way they have been able to do so far into this matchup. But I'm really just looking in the scenario of Daniel Plays coming in. That's kind of like my pinpoint right now. That's my linchpin on this mix-up, on this matchup, because it's not something I anticipated to see. But you bring a new tank to the table, and your team's entire chances of success can verge off of how good that tank player is. Plymouth State looking for that Winston, maybe a Widowmaker, but I suspect a swap there. And Florida International, Flakeys, I'm pretty sure for the first time on something that isn't that Bastion.
Yeah, and I mean, for a longer sightline map like Route 66 provides, just double hit scan, if you want to call Hanzo that. He's like a spam sniper, but it's going to work really well on a map like Route 66 as Plymouth is pulling out the Wrecking Ball. So this Hanzo from Flakeys and Sojourn from Guitar, you got to be careful. Very diveable for a Doomfist.
Yeah, the Wrecking Ball, I mean, he's a dangerous force to be reckoned with in quite a few ways. I think if you play him correctly, you can be very beneficial, but if you're playing him poorly, your team has no tank, and that's really difficult to work with. They see them trying to get in against Daniel Plays, but the healing from Yai and Giorin has been so powerful. Flaky's able to drop 2 in the backline. Look at that. The Wrecking Ball was focused on killing the Sigma for maybe 2 seconds. In those 2 seconds, the entire backline is wiped out, and Plymouth State's in their spawn room. That's the danger of playing Wrecking Ball.
Yeah, that's the issue. If you don't find kills quickly, then this poke composition between the Sojourn, the Hanzo, and now the Ilari in play is going to eviscerate your team before you can even blink. So finding these kills quickly is the game for Plymouth. If they can't, they're going to struggle.
The struggle is the name of the game so far, and I'm keeping a close eye on Florida International to see if they can continue to adapt against Plymouth State. I'm honestly, I hate to say it, shocked to see we're locking in the Wrecking Ball here. I thought, okay, it didn't work once. Nice try. Let's give it another opportunity. Let's give it another gander. But overall, they're going to be bringing him out into the second fight. Nearly half the time bank gone, barely halfway to their ultimate. I don't know. I'm just a Wrecking Ball hater. I'm not afraid to admit that. I think he's a really difficult character to play with one tank. And right now, I think Plymouth State hasn't really had the opportunity to play him that well.
Ironically, as a tank player myself, Wrecking Ball's the one tank I refuse to play. Even back when I competed, I'm like, no, you cannot convince me to play Wrecking Ball ever. I'm just not good at him, though. That's just a skill diff.
Okay, fair enough. No, I hear you. I mean, he's a tough character to play, and that's part of the reason I'm really not fond of him, because as I mentioned, if you're not playing him well, you're usually doing more damage to your team than you are being beneficial. And everybody's probably thinking, Septimus, why are you being so hard on Yver or whatever your name is? I'm so sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm not. It's not their fault they're playing Wrecking Ball. If it's something they're comfortable on, I do encourage playing characters you're comfortable with. But overall, just for me personally, I struggle with that character. I think he's really difficult to play well. And right now, I think they don't have the proper dive or support in the back line. That makes Wrecking Ball playable. If we had a Genji or a Lucio, I'm much more on board. But with 2 backline hit scans, it's just not a spot you want to be in.
Yeah, this composition that Plymouth is playing kind of reminds me of a composition we saw back in Overwatch 1 where you would play poke with Ball Sig, but you had a Sigma available to you. They don't have that available to them. So, like you said, this backline just gets dove and picked apart while the Wrecking Ball is trying to do his thing.
And this is tough, right? Because Plymouth State finally has the opportunity to have the numbers advantage. They're up by 3 right now, and this Wrecking Ball's finally getting necessary value. But it took them so long to get here that they've got 60 seconds to touch that first point cap. A recontest from Florida International is possible, but they're most likely going to have to give up this point. And I think the stagger eliminations here from Plymouth State were really valuable, and this Wrecking Ball really doing a heck of a lot better in the latter half of this first stage. Point cap is a guarantee due to the Wrecking Ball, and already they're getting a much stronger performance than we saw in the first 3 minutes of the matchup.
Yeah, now you come to this second point. Things open up a little bit for the Wrecking Ball, a lot more room to work with. But it's, still, chokes you're pushing through. Able to get the pick on the guitar, but Daniel Place comes in with 2.
That's going to be a big opening. Now, I'm not sure if it's enough to kind of stall out Plymouth right now. We've got 3 minutes left on the clock. The opening has been there, and they've gotten the necessary value to emerge victorious more than one time already. So I want to be looking at Plymouth State. Losing Neb Steele is going to hurt more. They found the momentum. Now they've lost it. It's going to really define how good this team can be, depending on how they react to losing this momentum, and that is not a great way to do it. To slam in, to use your ults, to have no support or coverage, to lose 2 out the gate is a great example of what probably shouldn't happen.
I mean, you're able to get the pick onto Daniel Place, so they're going to be tankless, and you're going to have quite the spawn advantage. So if you regroup here, try and take a fight quickly, you have an opportunity to at least get some distance going on this cart.
Yeah, looking for the distance here one way or another. Flakies has those dragons, has the sonic arrow on the site as well, but the cart continues to move. 2 minutes left. A lot of space necessary for Plymouth if they want to try and see that third point of Route 66. Overclock out from Ant takes Ye out of the equation. And that's going to be really difficult, as I think that amplification matrix was just a couple of seconds away from Ye. A bomb from Neb Steele as well, and this is such a good example of what we continue to see. I brought this up a couple of times already, and I think it is going to be really detrimental that Plymouth State, they continue to overextend the ultimates. That was 3 ultimates in a fight that was, all things considered, pretty darn won.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and Florida will get a comeback. This time they'll get a recontest, 4 ultimates to be able to use. You're relying on Plymouth being able to pop this Kitsune rush and find quick and early picks. If not,
yes,
the staggering advantage Florida's going to have in this fight is just going to bear down.
Oh, the cart moves closer once more with the dragons from Flakies. I mean, 4 ultimates from the side of Florida International. Kitsune Rush is out. Amplification Matrix is down. And with the aggression from Ant into the high ground there, we forced Gravitic Flux as well. So Florida International, a team that has been so good about holding their ults until they really needed them, actually dumping several ultimates down the drain in a desperate attempt to stall out this final minute of the matchup. Ant's elimination is not worthwhile, as the resurrection will come to fruition. And Flakies is going to get technically, I don't know, Ajaxed out of their dragons. No value to be found. 2:15 on the clock. And Plymouth State, I mean, this is so reminiscent of Kings Row. Everything has been close, but it's all coming up Plymouth.
I like that, using Ajax as a verb for something that isn't a sound barrier.
It's like the same concept, right? It's like you use your ult, but it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I like that. That should become a new verb. It's not just sound barriers anymore. If you don't get your ult off, you got Ajaxed.
It's basically an Ajax, right?
I mean, you will be facing... I mean, you're not even going to have to use this Captive Sun, as 3 picks already on for Florida.
I mean, this has just been the way of Florida, I mean, FIU so far, and it's been weird, it's been clunky, there's a lot of room for growth, but it's working well enough where this team is playing, they're using a bunch of ults, they're losing a fight, and then they kind of win the next fight high and dry, which isn't a terrible way to do it, but there's definitely better ways to find that value overall. I think I'm going to be looking pretty critically toward the side of FIU to win these fights a little more consistently. And as we've entered third point Route 66, we're seeing some pretty incredible value across the board. Captive Sun locked and loaded. Second fight already ended in favor of FIU, and as the third gets ready to kick off, there could be a lot of opportunity here.
Yeah, this is giving me very Kings Row vibes for Florida.
Sure.
Every time Plymouth was able to finish it with just a little bit of time on the clock, and then it came to third point, Florida was able to dig their heels in, and they're able to get the stop, and it just feels so similar. Yai gets the pick onto Ant, and Plymouth just can't get anything going. This third point is the toughest point to be able to play this Wrecking Ball.
100%. I mean, there's so few angles to walk away from. You're going to get, bogged into here or there. You're going to find yourself in a difficult position, and already 3 players go down. Bob comes out, and you blink and you miss him. Our favorite aim Bob is sent right back to the scrapyard. We've gone from 2.5 minutes to just 30 seconds now, and check out FIU's ult bank once more.
And I mean, Plymouth, all they're going to have, I mean, you're going to have the ability to Valkyrie, and you're going to have the overclock, which Ant has done a great job this map with those. But can they find the value with these mines coming in this next point as well?
Already the overclock from Ant finds one, but it's going to be answered out by 2 counter eliminations. Artillery strike in the back line sends Rember back to the spawn room as well. And as that 5th and final player gets taken down, the card will come to a close, and win condition has been set for FIU. It's not going to be easy, but it is absolutely possible that this team can walk away victorious here. They just have to make it barely into that 3rd point of Route 66.
Looking to send themselves to the, what would it be, semifinals, quarterfinals? It'd be quarterfinals. No, semifinals. Yeah. I'm right.
Yeah, semis.
Yeah. Again, they've looked like the better team this entire map. Again, being able to stop them before they can even get around that final corner on 3rd point's big. But the way Route 66 goes, both these first 2 points, extremely defensible. I've casted plenty of game where teams get 1st point held, and even if they make it past the 1st point, the 2nd point is just as hard to complete. So those are 2 very big milestones Plymouth was able to get through.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point here, because this is the type of map where you often see either, you know, we barely get under that bridge right there on screen, or we make it all the way to the 3rd point, and there doesn't tend to be kind of an in-between. Daniel plays, though, locking in our first Ramatra of the day. Haha, just kidding, gotcha. And now Daniel plays back to the Sigma, so it could be a Sig v Sig scenario, and I think that does make it a lot easier for Plymouth State to be successful, because this team finds themselves in more comfortable circumstances with a tank defending their backline a little more consistently.
Yeah, the Wrecking Ball to me was going to be a throw if he played that defensively. Like, Sigma is definitely the better choice on the defensive end. And they're pulling Ant on the Mei, which I like to be able to slow down, especially Flakies, who's going to play this Genji. That primary fire disrupts a lot of what they're trying to do on Genji.
Ooh, Guitar already finding Nebsteel, though, starts the bleeding almost immediately against Plymouth State. A wonderful accretion onto the high ground, gets a bit of disruption, but Flaky's finding Ant, makes it that much harder. Georan trying to get some supportal combat out, and it looks like they're going to be able to with the help of the team overall. Plymouth State fully team killed, and Florida International going to be halfway to that 1st point cap well before Plymouth State even gets back into the fight.
The one thing you can take away is you're going to get a full team regroup and have at least one more attempt at this, as Ant is now going to go over to the Widowmaker. So really digging in on this ability to have to find picks with this Widow and this Soldier. If they can't, they do.
Yeah, well, that answers that. If they can't, they say, hey, listen. And they find a beautiful headshot immediately out the gate. And already picks up one, able to find another into the form of Georan, and really helping turn things around in favor of Plymouth State, as Florida International just can't figure out which way to look. The power continuing to stack against them. They're starting to feel a bit nervous now as Neb swaps out of the Sombra. So Plymouth State going for a bit of cheese, playing some more rage-inducing characters. But you got to do what you got to do, especially when you're down 0-2 and you're just desperate to find a victory on the board. Lakey's goes deep into the back line, takes both DPS out of the equation, gives up their counterpart Guitar for the efforts, but I think that's a fully worthwhile distraction, as now the Sigma, last player left standing, stuck inside of the gas station.
Yeah, you get Yaver down, that's going to be the point cap for Florida. So milestone 1 complete. Again, this 2nd point, especially when you start rounding the final corner, is not easy to get through. So just under 5 minutes for Florida to be able to do that and try and punch their ticket into the semifinals.
Wow, beautiful shot there onto Guitar, taking that Sojourn out of the equation, but Nebsteel will get traded with a wonderfully timed accretion on the board in favor of Florida International. They've got the spawn advantage, they've got the cart moving, they've got Ant's location, and even with these sites online, I think this team knows to play just a little bit low and slow until Flaky's a large overextension almost cost them their life, and it looks like it actually will end up costing them their life into the final throws of the equation. Gravitic Flux comes up. Ant has to get out of the way. Amp will go down to Guitar, though, in the midst of the chaos, and a counter Flux comes out much more successfully. Able to find 2 players. They should both survive it. They've got the Immortality Field, and they've got that Yachty turret keeping themselves alive. Yachty's Immortality Field will go down. This Sigma, 215 HP, trapped in the corner. Accretion finds the pick. Flakies puts down Rember as well, and Nebsteel will be able to find that opening right back into the spawn room. Ant joins them. Florida International keeping the wheels moving. Really a very large time bank to work with. If they can keep up this momentum, I think we're all ready to say goodbye to Route 66 and this series as a whole.
Yeah, it's a precarious position for Plymouth to come in. Do you look to just set up a better defense on point 3, or do you look to try and contest this point? You will have EMP and Kitsune Rush. I feel like you have to make the attempt here.
We hear the Amplification Matrix come out with the help of that overclock. Beautiful performance. 2 ultimates used. They still have that Hyper Sun play from Florida International and Plymouth State. They've got 1 Amp Matrix, a Kitsune Rush, and an EMP on the board. A lot of ultimates coming into the next fight. I hate to say it, Ray, if there is one. Florida International now just meters away from winning out this map in a very dominant fashion.
Yeah, Plymouth at this point is living on a prayer. They are going to have a lot of ultimates to commit here, but can they get them off? They're doing a great job of pressuring, but there's the EMP.
Ooh. EMP, Neb still gives their life for it. It's a 5-man EMP. It is colossal. But Plymouth State just not there. The Rising Sun is going to be able to catch out some value. Ants Reaper does not, and it looks like there will be the opening for Florida International to win this in a 3-0 fashion. You said it best, Ray. This is a team that has lost once so far. They are not trying to do so here today as well. And with a 3-0 victory on the board, Florida International looking their best, might I say, in that third and final map.
Yeah, played incredible throughout the entire series, and my mistake. This is going to round of 8, so you'll be going to be quarterfinals. So Florida International able to punch their ticket into the quarterfinals. As I mean, they were very impressive. Their situational awareness, and I feel like their ult rotation was far superior over Plymouth State, and that's going to be a big reason why they're able to take that dub. They're able to come into more fights with more ultimates, and you know, as much as an intricate and fun game Overwatch can be, sometimes it just boils down to, I have more Qs than you that I can press.
Yep, and I think that's actually a huge part of the reason FIU was so successful, where you kind of hit the nail on the head here, is just they continue to hold their ults. FIU feels good about their opportunities. They play it low and slow. They hold the ultimates till the fights they know they needed to win, and it works absolute wonders for the team overall. FIU emerging victorious, moving into the round of 8, where hopefully they can move in just a little bit further. But that is all we've got for you guys here tonight on this broadcast. So thank you all so much for watching. Check your posture, drink some water. Don't forget to love each other, and we'll ECAC you guys next time. Have a good rest of your night.